Ops 6 zombies, because recently with the Season 5 update, data miners and leakers have discovered that there are new developments on this, seemingly indicating that Treyarch might actually be going ahead with a classic mode in this game that we could see at some point during Season 5 or maybe in Season 6. Better still, this might also be something that could be in Black Ops 7 zombies. So in this video, we're going to round up everything new that surfaced about this classic round-based zombies mode, because you might recall all the way back in September of 2024, discussions and rumors about a classic mode first arose because it was found within the beta. We've yet to see anything about classic mode until now. So let me know your thoughts about this all down below in the comment section, because if all this information actually ends up being true, there are some very interesting changes to this classic mode, which I don't think everyone is on board with. So jumping straight into it, discussions about this first began on Twitter by Reality UK, a known Twitter Call of Duty leaker, who said that the classic round-based mode for Black Ops 6 has had even more reference for it added in Season 5. So it'd be curious if they'll be lazy and stick it as a super Easter egg reward or something like that. Now, what is Reality's word against anything else? However, another Call of Duty data miner on Twitter known as Nanico has had a look around in the code and actually found a brand new game type that was added, which has never existed in this area of the game files before, and is labeled as a CM_classic, with another saying that it's in a class table called CM_round-based_classic. Reality UK then followed this up with some very specific details on what the classic round-based zombies are.
Rapid Response Team Alpha, Security Chief Blanchard. How copy? I'm barricaded the command center. Got a little dinged up, but I'll live. See if there's anyone left to save. Body cam's live. I'll keep eyes on them.
Semtex, have fun!
Listen up. We've got 3 scientists unaccounted for, last seen in town. Locating and extracting them is now your top priority.
For a moment where you will only be able to use 4 perks within this classic zombies game mode. Now, Reality follows us up to say that these are not all of the changes, and a lot of the changes he won't be able to figure out, but the things mentioned are the ones that he can figure out. Now, I would immediately want to know your thoughts in the comment section.
Whoops, where'd your head go?
Now that we aren't getting any more round-based maps. Now,
I think a big part of this is also Canadians recognizing and feeling like we need some leverage in these negotiations. These counter-terrorism.
Sorry you came here yet. Well, if anyone had to show up, I'm glad it was you.
For me? Really? What's the catch? Fire. Force of habit. Get on with that, you overblown slot machine.
Tear them to pieces.
Bravo Zulu. One less stealth fighter to worry about.
Max ammo.
See? Can't be hungry if you don't have a head. Problem solved. Semtex out!
Max armor.
wonder if I could write this off on my taxes. Who am I kidding? I don't pay taxes.
That must have been Dennis Riffle. Church groundskeeper. Good guy. Seems his luck didn't stick around in the end, though. Wonder what the key's for.
It'll smell like moldy ass for a bit. The results? Fucking crap. Step on a crack and break your motherfucking back. Don't suppose Uncle Sam gives out medals for lots and shit. I'd even settle for a bicky.
Hit the exit button. We're ready.
Bardo's basement.
See that one head pop off? Don't let it escape.
Reminds me of New Year's back in '87. Fun fact, lumberjack and fireworks do not mix. Fucking figures. Massive cannon, minor threat.
Max ammo.
available.
Max ammo.
Someone go grab a mop and a bucket. We got a gusher. Look who's keeping up with you geezers.
Insta-kill. Bonus points. Insta-kill.
This is what we call pre-gaming. Steroids for me? Fuck no. For my gun? Fuck yes. Stand back! Gotta fire some corpses home style! I wish that didn't smell so much like Mum's goulash. That's what you get for standing in my way.
Exfil window is opening.
price out here, whirly bird. Wouldn't want you to lose your precious squad of goody-goodies.
Pickup's inbound. Hang tight.
Clear up the LZ or evac ain't happening.
You like that? I know I saw his fucked in.
This position looks pretty hairy down there. Copy. We're coming on.
Copy that. Team, prep for debrief.
Not very good. I'm sorry, the government, sorry, it's not in a very good position to be continuing these talks because Trump can, if he wants to, rip up Kuzma because of Canada's actions, and he doesn't have to wait until 2026. He can do it, I think, with like 30 or 60 days notice. So, yeah, that's a little crazy. That's a little crazy. But let's continue watching this video, shall we?
This is targeted by President Donald Trump's sectoral tariffs. Think steel, aluminum, and the auto sector.
While we can't control the unrelenting determination with which President Trump is pursuing these tariffs, our government can and will continue to stand firm in our unyielding commitment to our workers and our economy. Now, these measures are designed not only to help workers weather the storm, but to position them for long-term success because their paychecks and their livelihoods are depending on it.
It is time for the Power Panel. Ginny Roth is a former Conservative campaign strategist, and here with me is Laura D'Angelo, an advisor to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Jordan Likeness is a former NDP strategist. Jordan, when we were talking in the break, there you said that there was something about Pete Hoekstra's comments that really sort of stood out to you. I just wonder if you want to, share with us what that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was remarkable listening to the interview. You had the sense that he was recounting an alternative history of what had happened in terms of the notion that Canada had somehow attacked the United States. Using tariffs the tariff war was launched by President Trump hit Canada first and hit Canada hardest of all the U.S. trade partners. I was also really struck by the fact that his tone and his comments about Kuzma are increasingly pointed, and you really have the sense and the idea that there is a threat implied there, that if Canada doesn't come to heel on some of these irritants, as he calls them, like the retaliatory tariffs, that Kuzma itself, which of course is what's providing the bulk of protection to Canadian trade right now, might be in jeopardy.
Ginny, did you also sort of take away that there was a new level of pointed threat on the table there, and should that sort of shape how Canada responds to deal with the ongoing trade war?
Similar reaction to Jordan, actually. It was funny to hear him use the phrase counter tariff and then imply that that was some sort of like first volley or, first aggression. It's like, actually in the name it says counter. We were countering your tariffs. Look, I think some of the counter tariffs have been foolish from the beginning, mainly because they hurt Canadians and they hurt our economy just as much as they hurt the U.S., if not more, because of the proportionality of them. I also think some of the boycotts we've had in place, the Ontario government took issue with Starlink, and then Elon Musk fell out with Trump. So, I think some of the stuff that was designed to appeal to the domestic audience in Canada that was frustrated with Trump was not worth the squeeze, especially if it is becoming an irritant in the negotiations. Having said that, I don't think Trump or any of his envoys, including the ambassador, is a good faith actor in terms of how they're viewing and talking about these negotiations. They're clearly not trying to come to a fair deal. We know that they see tariffs as like a revenue stream, a way to tip the scales in favor of the U.S. And so I also don't think we should necessarily take the ambassador's words, or frankly anyone speaking on behalf of the U.S. government administration and their negotiators in good faith. We're all not in the negotiating room. We don't know where things are falling apart, what Canada's willing to do and not do.
He's literally the ambassador of America to Canada. Like, it's his job to speak on behalf of America to Canada, and we shouldn't take... is that what she just said? We shouldn't take what he says in good faith? Did I freaking hear that correctly?
And so I don't think we should overcompensate in reacting to the ambassador's comments, especially given that he's mischaracterizing so many important events.
Certainly one thing that sort of stood out there in our conversation, in our interview that we did with him last week when he was on here, we pressed him on, this Canada's response did not happen in this vacuum. Like, this was cause and effect. It was the Trump administration came forward with, tariffs related to border security, and Canada responded. And Canada was not the one to make the first move here. What do you make of the way that
Canada's response to the border and the fentanyl crisis has been theatrical, right? You have the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, who has significantly gone out of her way to better secure the border between Alberta and Montana, deploy, Black Hawk helicopters, increase border presence, all that stuff. However, the fentanyl distribution in Canada is still extremely high, right? And we have it, like, you've heard Pierre Poilievre campaign on this, right? The ports. We, scan the cans is a great slogan that actually should be used more frequently. We scan like 1% of shipping containers at ports, and we don't scan any railways, which is insane. So, like, anything can basically come in through rail, which that's a big no-no. And so we just kind of have to ask ourselves the question, is our government actually doing something, or are they just simply posturing? Are they just, like, trying to put on a display? Because there's a difference, right? There's, like, actually trying to do something. Like, if you go to the gym, right, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna work out, and then the entire time you're just, like, on your phone, and, like, 5 minutes between sets, and then all of a sudden, like, you pick up, like, barely any weight, and you're like, oh, I just don't want to be here. Or you just lock the fuck in, you put your headphones in, and you just start lifting crazy heavy, and you're dripping in sweat. Like, there's a difference between just going through the motions or actually doing it. And Canada, historically, when it comes to this stuff, goes through the motions and doesn't actually do it. Now, not every single Canadian politician falls into that category. A lot of people truly believe that Danielle Smith was actually doing it, like she was locked the fuck in. But our federal government, I don't know, man. I can't really speak on good things of Trudeau being locked in, and Carney is yet to really prove that he has the ability to lock in, so we're left unlocked and unchecked. Well, I mean, Trump is checking us, and it's not a nice feeling.
The ambassador is sort of framing this conversation and trying to sell it to a Canadian audience?
I mean, it really feels like the ambassador.
Oh my god, bro! Carney goes on CNN. Doug Ford goes on CNN. You talk about framing something to a foreign audience? Oh, eat shit, CBC. That's all the liberals do. Are you kidding me? Are you did I hear that correctly? Oh, blaming the ambassador for coming on a Canadian... It's not even mainstream, bro. Jack McLean is a YouTuber. Like, what the hell are they freaking pissing about? Trying to pander to a Canadian audience. Eat shit, CBC. Oh my god. Where's that criticism with Carney or Freeland or when Jagmeet went on CNN or when Doug Ford literally is a reoccurring guest on CNN to the point where he's probably getting paid to go on CNN? Where is the outrage or even the acknowledgement of that happening? Doesn't exist. Oh my freaking goodness, man. This is insane. This is actual propaganda.
Is living in an alternate timeline right now. It doesn't feel like he's watching or listening or hearing any of the same things we are. And I think, Ginny called it a mischaracterization, and it absolutely is, right? This is very clear, at least to Canadians, that this trade war was sparked by tariffs, by threatening Kuzma overall, and by suspending trade talks at various points over the past number of months. And I think a big part of this is also Canadians recognizing and feeling like we need some leverage in these negotiations. These counter tariffs, these measures that the Canadian government are using, whether you agree with all of them specifically or not, are providing Canada with some leverage during the negotiations, and we do need that leverage, right? And I think the Prime Minister and Minister LeBlanc in particular have been clear that if we need to, we will walk some of these pieces back. I think the digital service tax is an example of that.
Okay, again, more proof that Canada is so disingenuous. The Canadians and Americans have historically gotten along quite well, right? I mean, minus, like the whole 1812 White House thing. Let's fast forward to like modern times. We fought in a lot of the same wars. Canada is there to help America. When 9/11 happened, Canada was there to help ground a lot of planes and like bring people in that didn't know what the hell was going on in America. Like, there's a lot of give, then there's a lot of take. Our Canadian government, though, is trying to frame it as Canada and America are like brothers or siblings of any capacity, and it's unfair what's happening to us, the younger sibling. Eat shit, CBC. Eat shit, because you now have the former advisor to Justin Trudeau, whatever the hell, the female bubbles, holy fuck boys from the Trailer Park Boys, big glasses and big eyes that we just said, is Canada's looking for leverage. Oh, we're panicking. How can we possibly find leverage against America? We need some blackmail. We need something against America because it's so unfair that Canada's going through this. We need to be able to twist America's arm and, pin them in a corner. How is that sibling behavior? I mean, yeah, like toxic siblings, like teenagers and shit like that, but how is that actual good neighborly talks, right? We need leverage against America, but America, stop picking a fight with us. We're brothers. We would never harm you, but we need leverage against you. It's bipolar. I feel like I'm going nuts. I don't know if it's the coffee hitting me. I don't know if it's the smoke fumes getting to my brain right now from the outside from the wildfires, but dude, this is insane. This is insane what CBC is saying.
But for now, we also can't just give everything up and end up, frankly, with a deal that isn't particularly great for Canadians, like we've seen in some of the countries that have already done that.
Yeah, Jordan, is that something that stands out to you, that when we take a look at what other countries have been able to negotiate, that perhaps, Canada needs to be in sort of a position where, it needs to focus on what it does have in this moment, and perhaps this is something that Canadians will not like to hear. Perhaps Canadians need to get used to the idea that tariffs are kind of just here.
Well, I think that there's a lot of evidence to suggest that even countries that have negotiated trade deals with Trump, those trade deals aren't worth the paper that they're written on, because he's been willing, for example, in Japan, like he's gone back on agreements that have been made. There's also not a lot of evidence that unilaterally disarming in terms of making...
Wrong. He didn't go back on deals with Japan. He just signed one of the biggest deals with Japan that the world has ever seen, and then did it like a few days later, topped up, right? Even crazier deal with Europe or the European Union. I mean, the guy is making deals left, right, and center. This is insane. I'm not defending anything wrong that Trump may or may not have done, but to Canada's weird elitism stance, CPC's weird elitism stance, is like Trump is the enemy and Canada is so much better than America. Oh my goodness, we're just so much better. But we need leverage against our enemies. But please don't attack us because we're friends. We're brothers and sisters. We fought in the same wars. But we're going to destroy you if we have a chance. But please don't destroy us. Why would you do that? We are literally the biggest trade partners in the entire world. But the moment we get leverage, we're going to go for your throat and your jugular. Dude, I'm so exhausted of this insanity. It's bipolar. Watching this news makes me lose brain cells. I'm seeing what they're trying to do, and they're trying to convert more people to be anti-American and anti-Trump, and it works, dude. We all know a liberal, whether it's like a family that we don't really get along with, like a family member, you know what I'm saying? Like a cousin, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, brother, sister, whatever it is. Like, we all We all either have it or through like second degree, we know of it, right? Or a friend that you've lost or just don't really talk to, or you're like, hey, I can't talk about politics with the person because they're absolute idiots. Or like, they're trying to convert more people to that side. And it's insane. And that's why it's so important to like and subscribe to channels like this so we can absolutely expose this weird North Korean China kind of propaganda. I'm losing my freaking mind, folks, but I also do have to evacuate, like right now. Wife's in the car waiting for me. Peace and love. See you guys later. Bye. Canada is actually saving a bunch of money. We're in a surplus, and we have recently found a very mutually prosperous deal with America. Is what I wish I could be saying on one of these videos. But in fact, this particular video is the exact opposite. Instead of saving money, Canada, specifically Carney, is spending billions more dollars, recently announced today, and America is saying, yeah, I don't even know if we're really going to find a deal with Canada, and I don't really know if we're interested in finding a deal with Canada. So, yeah, sorry for that plot twist and that roller coaster of emotions, but hey, this is Canada, and it's we're on the verge of bankruptcy. I don't even know. I mean, if you're not laughing, you're almost crying. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I really want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already, please. Before they start tariffing subscriptions, which are free. I don't even know how they would, but I feel like they would. And since we are talking about tariffs, I gotta say, my wife has been going on Temu, whatever the hell it's called, and she just got this. Look at this. A little sign to say I love you. That's super cool. So I keep that now on my desk. It's also a little chip thing. Very neat. Anyways, thank you. And without further ado, let's get into the news because there's a lot of it and none of it is really good. Like, none at all. So here we go. Starting off with what's going on in America. Apparently, President Trump is threatening to take over Washington, D.C. governance. I mean, probably rightfully so. U.S. President Trump said on Tuesday that the federal government could take control of Washington, D.C. if the local government doesn't get its act together, with his comments coming in a social media post complaining about crime in the U.S. Capitol, something that Canada can somewhat relate to, very much so. The law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors as adults, in quotation marks, and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. Trump said in his post, if D.C. doesn't get its act together and quickly, we will have no choice but to take federal control of the city, Trump has said. And I just kind of want to pass the question off to you. What do you feel about this? Today was actually a really big day for Trump saying a bunch of stuff on social media. Like above average normal, because in a previous post or a previous interview earlier today, Trump tells reporters that he wants to run again in 2028. He just doesn't know if he will, which is kind of crazy. And so, since we are on that topic, I do want to pose a question to you guys. Would you support Trump running again in 2028? I know it seems like legally it's impossible since you can only serve 2 terms as a president. But, I mean, I don't know. I feel like if anyone could do it, it's probably him. I just don't know how the backlash would kind of, that might start some shit in America. But I'd love to know what you guys think, regardless, down below. Then in Canadian news, we got to talk about the Air Canada strike because it's getting crazy, and they actually voted on it. So more than 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants are poised for a possible strike. It's actually now being confirmed in a week and a half after members voted in favor of strike action, according to the union representing the flight attendants. Air Canada flight attendants approved strike mandate. Air Canada flight attendants have voted 99.7% in favor of strike action, if necessary, their union said on Tuesday, in a move that could allow them to walk off the job as early as this month. The Canada Union of Public Employees said in a statement it could give a 72-hour strike notice as early as August 16th after negotiations hit an impasse with the airline in July.
We've said it before, and if you want something done right, you call Donald Trump because he's the only one who can get things done in Canada as he continues to stack tariff wins, allowing him to strengthen Social Security for U.S. citizens. The Canadian government is begging its pensioners to not take Social Security because we can't afford it. And these tariffs have allowed Donald Trump to put pressure on the Canadian government to clean up the border. This is all while we're seeing the amount of Canadians being arrested by ICE continue to increase. Canada has never been serious about its border until Donald Trump put the pressure on, and we're seeing that today because our foreign entrepreneur problem that we've always had in Canada has continued to get worse and deteriorated the relationship between Canada and U.S. at the border. One of the stories today is so crazy, I thought it was fake. It's real. And at the end of this video, we have another serious news story that sounded fake that made me laugh out loud when I heard it. There is a lot to talk about in today's video, so let's get into it. A couple quick updates from Trump's announcement today, and this does relate to how he's able to organize at the border.
And yet our country's taking in tens of billions of dollars and trillions of dollars, actually trillions of dollars in tariffs. You know all about it. It's been amazing. They say, why are we taking in so much money? Last week they found $29 billion and they couldn't figure out where it came from. I said, check the tariff shelf. And they said, how did you know that's where it came from?
And because of these surpluses, which are starting to build up, and don't get me wrong, the U.S. has a debt problem. It's something that needs to be addressed. They are working on it. Just saw an interview with Scott Besson, and so far in his mind, these things are working, but that's why he can make these types of announcements.
Even Trump possible. And it's the 90th anniversary right now of Social Security. So today we celebrate that 90th anniversary of one of the most significant pieces of legislation ever signed into law, the Social Security Act of 1935, and we're going to make it stronger, bigger, and better. Really doing a job. In the campaign, I made a sacred pledge to our seniors that I would always protect Social Security, and under this administration, we make that promise and strengthening Social Security for generations to come. We keep it as 6 years, 7 years Social Security. We got it, and it will be if the Democrats don't get involved, because they don't know what they're doing.
That's statement there. But okay, he's strengthening Social Security. He's telling that's great to hear. So, what does Canada have to say about pensions and the old age security?
Is it time to revamp Canada's old age security program? As baby boomers age, the cost of the federal government retirement pension is expected to soar from $77.8 billion to a whopping $276.5 billion by 2060, more than triple. And Generation Squeeze, a charitable think and change tank, is urging the federal government to take action.
They're asking them to take action by asking Canadian pensioners to not take their pension. Hey, look, guys, if you can afford it, don't take your pension. I know you've paid into it for your entire working career, but we as the government have messed up so bad. Canada has no industry. We have no way to actually generate any level of income as the government anymore because we have driven away all of the private investment. Can you please not take your pension? We can't afford it. And that's why Trump's able to make announcements like this.
The whole world understood it. They respect this country again. They really respect this country again. They didn't respect it when he said it, it didn't mean anything. Now they know what they mean. And Mexico does what we know it to do. Canada does what we know it to do. Southern border. And they were both horrible.
And all of we're going to get into that today, and we are seeing Canada and Mexico are listening to Donald Trump. Trump just had a bunch of criminals extradited to him from Mexico, so they're obviously starting to listen down there. The Canadian government has been ignoring all of the problems this entire time. And again, the only reason we're seeing these security issues getting addressed is because of Donald Trump, because Canada removes hurdles to join the Golden Dome. Canada is also reportedly cleared a path to partner with the Trump administration for the Golden Dome. The Ottawa Citizen reported that Canada's Defense Minister David McGuinty said that the outdated restrictions, roadblocks have been removed during a July visit to the North American Aerospace Defense Command's headquarters in Colorado. The threat environment has drastically changed and Canada needs to be prepared. I promise you that never would have been said without Donald Trump. That is a 100% Donald Trump influenced decision, just like this one. Trump's tariffs are forcing Canada to address its money laundering problem. On July 31st, Trump administration announced that it would raise tariffs on Canadian imports to 35%, citing Canada's failure to meaningfully address the growing use of its territory by, let's just say, fun-time powder traffickers. Federal officials called for renewed dialogue, while Ontario Premier Doug Ford demanded retaliatory tariffs. So we have this story that just came out, some hilarious Canadian propaganda. Nearly 150 Canadians held in ICE custody this year, including 2 toddlers, status show. And they go on to say, like, oh, these poor Canadians, they were held in ICE possibly for longer than ICE. ICE has these rules where they're not allowed to hold people for more than 20 days, and this Canadian was held for 21 days, and there was just all these poor people captured by ICE. Till you get to the bottom of the article where they say over 70% of the people detained and caught by ICE have criminal histories, so they're arresting criminals who just so happen to also have Canadian citizenship in the U.S. and deporting them, which is what we want and absolutely need in Canada. But because Donald Trump and ICE are doing it, it's bad because these poor innocent Canadians, only 70% of them are criminals. The other 30%, it turns out, are on full immigration violations, basically have been staying there fully illegally, and just, again, also so happen to be foreign nationals with Canadian citizenship. So to see them title it nearly 150 Canadians is so funny, when a lot of them are foreign nationals who just so happen to also get their Canadian citizenship, which doesn't mean anything these days. According to the Canadian government, every single person in the whole entire world is Canadian, and that's why we have Ottawa pressed to factor in 500,000 undocumented residents as it consults on immigration targets. So they're now wanting to open pathways to accept that it's normal, that people are just staying over their visa times. They're staying in Canada illegally. They're coming to Canada illegally. And we should factor that in all of our decisions now instead of just kicking them out. Listen, in one sense, I do agree, because they're saying, hey, we should limit some of the numbers if we're going to have all these undocumented people. Or we can limit the numbers and get rid of the undocumented people. So I like the idea, just maybe not the execution. But we are about to get into the insane story that I thought was fake. I cannot believe it's real, but it shows Canada doesn't care about who
There's always another job.
And that's why when I get to all of the criminal stuff later on, maybe it's not going to be as surprising when you see the tone that was set. Have you liked the video? Yeah, we're trying to get the videos out from our people. We're trying to grow the channel. If you like what we're talking about, feel free to subscribe. Love to have you on board. Let's get that first. Wine, candy, and room service. How Ottawa spent $170,000 on Canadian political enthusiast women. Let's just say that. Political enthusiast women. Very important, because federal officials spent $170,000 bringing Canadian, first of all, we gotta stop calling them Canadian, political enthusiast women home from Syria, according to internal government documents that show expenses for ice cream, candy, and wine. The money was for costs incurred when 8 women who had traveled to the Middle East to join the political enthusiast state returned to Canada with their children in 2022 and 2023. And the reason why this is just coming out now is because we just got the documents. Here's the insane thing. They go and they break down all of the costs on what it costs to bring these people home. This did not include any of the costs on the actual response to get there. So it's more likely that this number is well over 200,000, and that's to bring back criminals who went to meet and support this group. So the Canadian government brought back these people who support this group at the expense of taxpayers who not only are state people, but also hundreds of thousands of dollars back to
Alpha Team, this is Chief of Security Blanchard. Are you a sight for sore eyes? I've been holed up in the mansion since yesterday trying to organize a containment response. Now that you're here, let's lock down that AO. I'll track body cams and coordinate. Listen up. We've got 3 scientists unaccounted for, last seen in town. Locating and extracting them is now your top priority.
Yeah, ventilating these shits never gets old.
take everything I have and flip me the bird for my trouble, isn't it?
For a team who didn't expect to
Was
take
that
on
so
the
hard?
apocalypse
You
today,
don't always need to be such a
you're
massive
handling this
twat.
well.
Let's get into the culprit here. A male party identified as Romeo Benjamin. Another strong
Double points.
Way to swat that bug out, Hulk.
Max ammo. Bonus points.
Beats the hell out of shooting lawn gnomes with an air rifle.
Max armor.
Any of you hotshots want to beat my high school?
Bonus points.
Oh yeah, I can feel it. This one's gonna kick like a motherfucker.
Residents will have to post a US $15,000 visa bond just to enter the US. Here's what to know. Oh yeah, that was happening 20 years ago. That was happening 30 years ago. That was happening before when it was just illegal to travel to the US. You know, there was certainly fun. Yeah, this is the Trump administration showing Canada they have to take their border seriously. But I don't know why Trump would do that. Look at what you guys are missing out on. This is in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which would basically be like, hey, we're from Kansas. Look at this very normal and expected sight from Canada. When you come to Canada, this is what everybody expects. Huh. Yeah, the virus is normal in Kansas. Not be scared. This is exactly what
New concerns about Ontario's largest hospital construction project. The government finalized the contract just last month. You mean 100 project is
In the biz, got plenty more where that came from.
It's so funny that the only thing that was such a big deal is because of
Kaboom!
US. Donald Trump got in, and we specifically got to take Trump on because we know he's a huge problem. That's sarcasm if you guys aren't picking that up. Instead of building a relationship where we can work together, let's mount up hatred. But anyways, here is the video that I think in this 25-second clip does such a good example of where
Tear them to pieces!
Dr. Billetier. My favorite egghead. Not just book smart, but street smart.
Jackpot, right in the goal.
Max ammo.
Pick up windows open.
That is a news story about one single F-Prime machine being installed. Talking about how it's revolutionary and cutting-edge technology. F-Prime machines are almost 50 years old at this point. Revolutionary cutting-edge technology that is a classic Canadian. That's where the Canadian is thinking.
You thought all that armor'd make a fucking difference? Stupid twat. Going, gone! You don't get it, mate. I'm the hunter, not the prey.
There could be bans placed.
This
supposed to deliver a big ultimatum to Vladimir Putin. And the war in Ukraine has faced new crippling economic sanctions. That was the ultimatum. And though is about that. For the Russians. But wait, there's more. Earlier today, when asked whether Ukraine, who was invaded by Russia 3.5 years ago and has been defending itself ever since, would have to give up its territory, Trump gave this little clue about what a peace deal could entail.
We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping territories.
Exfil is no longer available.
Is thinking that they can determine Ukraine's fate without the input of the Ukrainians. Let me tell you, the Ukrainians I've come to know are thus Donald Trump talks about distrust, and he's telling Ukraine to give up parts of its country to an invader, not an enemy, that is brutalizing the people, that is permanent destruction, that is destroying churches at cultural and industrial scale. I have talked to torture victims from these occupied territories. I will never forget my conversation with Ludmilla Miller, the age of my youngest daughter. Saying that she never had that problem until the Russians.
Won't find this at the Sunny Study store.
Guess that one was done using its body.
Headed to my van. Inside the fireworks. Moving with grenade launcher.
Stand up not just Trump, but stand for Ukraine's defense of
Insta-kill.
Looks like Trump is going to turbo yet again after this brief glimpse pivot these people and his aggression towards Ukraine. He's invited on equal terms to American soil. I don't know how it makes me feel as a vet. How does it make you feel? It's just beyond. It's beyond trying not to be numb because every day there's some new outrage.
Mum always told me to stop picking up scabs. Some things never change.
Max armor.
We're not even close to done, are we?
There's
therapy after this. Heaps. Fucking heaps.
Extractions available in your AO.
Bonus points.
And it's buying a couple more months at least for the Russians to fight. And this is it's murder. I mean, it's honestly murder of the Ukrainian.
What do you make of Trump's decision to exclude Zelensky? I mean, the only actual victim in this entire conflict doesn't have a voice at this negotiating table. I've got pretty strong feelings about this, having learned something about the spirit of the Ukrainian people, but just from a geopolitical standpoint, how do you explain that to us?
What this does, and I think the geopolitical implication of this, is it's basically setting up a world where empires get to carve out the world. Right? So it's not saying, look, okay, we've got a dispute or a war between Ukraine and Russia, and we need to figure out how to bring them both to the table. I mean, the one thing that Donald Trump could have gotten out of this meeting is telling Putin, if you're going to come here, you're at least going to meet with Zelensky and have a conversation. But yeah, I mean, this is basically the big powers of the world now, similar to post-World War II, similar to, the whole era prior to World War II, now deciding how the world is going to be carved up. And look, if I'm living in Ukraine, and all of a sudden I'm sitting here saying, who's the United States to make a decision about what parts of the country we have to give up? Or who's Russia to make a decision about what part of the country we have to give up? And this is where the most important thing, Ken, is like, Europe has got to find its sea legs. Now, I get the government.
It is time for a little money, power, politics. The Labor Department published new numbers on U.S. wholesale prices today. And spoiler, they are much higher than expected. The PPI surged nearly 1% last month. That is the biggest monthly jump in over 3 years. Now, if you are not familiar with this measure, what it is, what it means, why do we care? Well, PPI stands for Producer Price Index. That means the wholesale price of goods. We care because it provides unique insight into the real inflation picture. Now, the PPI.
Welcome to Liberty Falls. Population? Well, less than yesterday. Never been so glad to see backup arrive. Hell, lucky I'm still in one piece. I need you to look for survivors. Subdue any threats. Help me save this town. Copy.
Chuck and sticky.
Insta-kill.
Listen up. Accounted for. Last seen in town. Locating and extracting them is now your top priority.
Madame Master, what does your take on these numbers? Because PPI is not something your average
Thanks, motherfucker. If it spews out a slingshot, I'm fucking done. You wouldn't try to unlock a knockoff on me, would you? Nah, You ain't that stupid.
You know, the people who lived here trusted us. We failed them. And I can't even explain how.
Seeing all the prices go up, even to be honest, look at my 401k. It's soaring.
Max armor.
President inherited a very robust economy. Great revenues are good, profits are all-time highs. So because it hasn't yet come to pass, this is kind of a canary in the coal mine. When you have American manufacturers like John Deere saying tariffs could cost us $600 million in 2025, well, people are going to keep their profits 14% go up.
Bonus points.
Profits continue to drive things forward. Second, the S&P 500 companies derive 50% of their revenue from around the world. So if the U.S. is dealing with all this tariff mania, sending, tariffs are just a consumption tax. Ultimately, consumers pay for it. The rest of the world isn't necessarily importing a lot of goods from the United States, so it's not a problem for them. And then lastly, regulations are another driving factor. It's good to be with you. Thank you for the invite. Anytime. You're always welcome. Okay. The last time I heard
Double points. Tear them to pieces.
See the face on that thing?
Good.
Oh, nightmare fuel.
Max ammo.
Don't throw peck on it. Yeah, I know it's tempting. Dad took a sharky enough to know you fuckers are about to be chum.
Since that time, what have we seen? We have seen, and this I think is more interesting rather than just
Listen, fuckers. Efficiency's key when running a business. This is me being efficient. Busting heads for fun and profit. And business is booming.
Exfil window is opening. Tango identified. How many kinds of these freaks are there?
Got an energy mine. Looking to put up some big numbers. deadly a tune.
Alpha team, extra window closed.
Max ammo.
For the record, not keen on the massive tin man with a cannon. Dad would have been proud of that one.
I said it in an old form, okay? To amplify. So that me speaking now, and maybe being really, really good at finding a phrase that could be out of conversation with 150 people saying, what? So this, I think
That's actually how you do this question. Were you surprised that Canada retaliated after the tariffs that
I think it's the Canadians who have said that, you know, there were two countries that have been very strongly retaliatory tactics against the United States, and that is China and Canada. Canadians have said that. And it, you know, it may have started, I don't know where it started, but it may have started from, you know, some of the Canadian leaders rather than the president saying that. But we're well aware that, you know, there's two countries that have been relatively harsh against the United States, and that's China and Canada. Are we surprised that Canada retaliated? No. Okay. What we do know is that at this point we have an agreement with Japan, we have an agreement with South Korea, we have an agreement with the UK, we have an agreement with the EU. Pretty impressive list of countries that, you know, have found the time, the energy to engage in negotiations and get to an agreement with the United States that lays out a path forward. So Canada is one of the countries that we've not gotten to that point yet that lays out a path forward.
there was no Gallup poll that said that 50% of Canadians have positive views, 79% have negative views for the administration. When you talk with folks in the White House, what's your explanation or your thought process on why you think Canadians are so receptive?
It's not hard, okay? You have a campaign that took place where both parties ran on anti-American policy. You're in a situation where your business community promises that he made to the American people and implementing the policies that he believed will deliver those results.
I think you can talk about one of the reasons except for the president is because a lot of his 51st day comments, which dominated the media for years. He's not saying as much now. But if you go back to that time, do you think that was like a compliment from Donald Trump that he would want to have Canada's 51st day?
All I hear how this originated, and he was talking to one of the
Sam is in Tower 3. I'm trying to find a way there. Stabilize the ether reactors before they go critical. Please.
I want to stay alive long enough to watch Sam's fight. So I guess I'm winning. Aw, all that bootlicking is where to get you.
Sergei, you deserve to know. Nexus was obliterated in the ether. There was never any chance of saving her.
She was a warrior, a soldier. She understood the risks. You are not her.
I feel what she felt. She treasured you, and so do I.
Perhaps some streak of humanity does
This is John Blanchard. Is anyone near admin? I had to hole up here while I was looking for that maniac Panos.
Somebody living regular. That's a fresh change of pace. Hey, Peck, when we first met, never dreamed we'd end up here. With everyone who'd most like to see you dead?
Well, I never dreamed you'd end up there Rookie of the Year. But we'll settle for the fact that we're not pushing up daisies.
Double points.
Finish.
Max armor.
Things are pretty dog shit as it is. No need to make it worse. You got it? He's pretty, but can he die?
The one thing we both have in common is we're seen as criminals, loose cannons. People hate it when you live by your own rules.
Yeah, but these folks took a chance on trusting us. Maybe we can do the same with Sam. goes the lead.
Stuck, kid.
Trust Sam. That's your game plan? Now, the only thing I trust is science. And my God-given genius, of course.
Some slight relief in that. And this happens if you go in a solo match. And it's so memorable because Taki was always putting on this brave face and not fully opening up emotionally to Grimace, but when they're gone, he's almost glad that they don't have to go through the same torture he's going through. What can I say about Grey? I mean, she's great, she's kind of funny, I guess, and, you know, she's like the super smart British scientist woman. Her own smart axis have everything going on, which they never fleshed out, I don't think. And if they did,
Prices are soaring. Last week, the average wholesale price for large white shell eggs reached $8 per dozen. This is wholesale. Retail is higher than this. The premium wholesale price was $5.26 back in December 2022. How much are eggs retail right now?
Welcome to Colton Hall. I trust your journey was uneventful.
Well, I almost stitched Beck's mouth shut, but otherwise, duh. I only hope it was worth dragging the sentinel artifact properly around the globe.
Fun if there were lollies inside once in a while.
Once you get inside, make your way down to my mainframe chamber. I cannot wait to see you.
Whatever else is in the basement, there better be a fully stocked bar.
Max armor.
Putting my bet in. Oh, I'd sooner put my money on a three-legged horse. Where others get frustrated, I see an opportunity. That's just good business sense. I swear this takes longer every time. The box hates me. Not that I care.
Ready to
Okay,
stand
I
the
do
born
care.
skeptic by creating a life out of thin air?
Indeed, I am, Herr Doctor. But our team must still complete some final arrangements.
I'll tell you the same thing I told my ex during my last UTI. It'd be real nice if you could say, still doesn't wrap my noggin around what we're using to gas up the Sentinel thingy.
They call it prima materia.
That's some bullshit alchemy term. We need something more primitive. Peck particles. It's a nice ring, don't you think?
Every cartel boss and arms dealer I ever met had a villa, plantation, or mansion. Might seem cool to some. To me, a house like this screams trouble.
What, the walking corpses weren't enough of a red flag?
Tell you how much I love that popping sound.
I'm regretting my vote for Donald Trump.
Voted for Donald Trump and now I regret it. A lot of people voted for Trump and have to come.
I regret voting for Trump.
So deeply regret my vote for Donald Trump.
I was a dumbass, voted for Trump. It was the worst decision I ever made.
I've seen the light, and I got out of MAGA. A lot of us there have seen. We have deep regrets.
I feel guilty because I voted for Trump twice. I feel very guilty because I feel responsible.
And exclusionary hatred for people that they felt were beneath them. Somehow ignoring the glaring signs that sharp as grass of the way the government works were completely non-existent.
I talked about 2 years ago to a college student from the Midwest who reached out, watches the 5, is thinking about a career in politics, is really interested in political communication. We got on the phone, and he emailed me last week. And he said that I could share.
The ether reactors need to be stabilized before they kill us all. Get to my office. Restart whatever systems you can find on the way.
Looks like our hands are tied. And we're not in trouble. Benefit package won't cover that.
Trust anyone, so I lied. Nexus is beyond even the Sentinel artifact's reach.
I know how that feels, Sam, but this hurts people I'm starting to give a shit about. That's a problem.
Richtofen was closing in on the artifact. I had to act. Please, help me.
My gut's a funny feeling. first met, never dreamed we'd end up here. With everyone who'd most like to see you dead.
Well, I never dreamed you'd end up there, Rookie of the Year. But I'll settle for the fact that we're not pushing up daisies.
Double point.
Semtex out! Just give me something to straight. I was sure you'd have me over a barrel. Again.
Max armor.
Come on, come on, come on!
The one thing we both have in common is we're seen as criminals, loose cannons. People hate it when you live by your own rules.
Yeah, but these folks took a chance on trusting us. Maybe we can do the same with Sam.
Tear them to pieces. Max ammo.
At this point, I don't care if it shoots fucking acorns. As long as the job
Sam.
gets done.
That's your game plan? Well, the only thing I trust is science. And my God-given genius, of course.
Fuck science. Half the walking corpses in this place have PhDs, and look what that got them. Honestly, not a bad makeover. I think you look great.
Bonus points.
So our choices are helping a mass murderer or a machine that lied so it could get a life. Doesn't seem like a tough call.
Slow your roll, comrade. Easy choices. The ones that worry me most.
Insta-kill.
You nerds see that? I'm just warming up, baby.
Insta-kill.
Try to save face and appease us, the player base. I think I speak for everyone, every single one of you commenting on this video. That this video was amazing, learned a lot, and whatnot. Every single one of you, I think I speak for you when I say, it's too late, you stupid motherfuckers! It's too fucking late! You have burned the bridge. You don't just burn the bridge, you have burned the town connected to the bridge. Let's say before I shoot. Narcissistic, manipulative
holders, yes men that jerk each other off every fucking week when they sell their next cringy self-shaded bundle to little Timmy and put his mom into further credit card debt. Not to mention their track record for lying. I have never covered so many outrageous, blatant lies.
If you could stop the ether reactors from going critical, that would be lovely. I will find where that semi-conscious bucket of gold is hiding the artifact.
Looks like our hands are tied, and not in a fun way. Ah, violence. Yeah.
Sergei, you deserve to know. Nexus was obliterated in the Dark Ether. There was never any chance of saving her.
She was a warrior, a soldier. She understood the risks. You are not her.
But I feel what she felt. She treasured you. And so do I.
Fascinating. Perhaps a streak of humanity.
Insta-kill.
Blanchard, to all stations, look out for panels. He'd kill my team and won't think twice about fragging you.
What is it with this company recruiting homicidal nerds?
My last video ever on the channel. But let's get into
Okay, when we first met, never dreamed we'd end up here. With everyone who'd most like to see you dead.
Well, I never dreamed you'd end up there, Rookie of the Year. But I'll settle for the fact that we're not pushing up daisies.
Bonus points.
Better I gamble here than some dodgy warehouse poker game. Those fuckers cheat. Rock on. Looks like there'll be no rest till exfil.
Tariffs, let's be clear, are not your only issue here, but farmers are also changing their behavior. We'll get to that in a second, but if we could, I want to start with the tariffs. Last quarter, you took a 200...
regards to the PU, they go above and beyond. Check out those links down below in the description. Those are some of the best ways to support me and the counter market content. This week in the shit show.
Guess what's turning 100 next year? The 40-hour work week. 1926, and people are saying that completed. Think about all of the technology, all of the developments in the we're going to maintain it. We're literally
I hope you rested up on your journey to West Virginia. You look well, all things considered.
First time in America. And it looks just as shagged out as expected. Can't we become housekeeping for these pricks?
I wish I could come greet you in person, but my physical form... Well, you'll understand once you descend to my bunker.
Underground. Everywhere we fucking go, we end up underground.
Everything is ready, but there is more work to do to empower the Sentinel artifact.
Great. More mystic puzzles, yeah? Fuck me, Dad. If I get a complex because of you, I'm gonna need to switch careers. Seriously, all I do is deal with boxes.
Max armor.
Still haven't wrapped my noggin around what we're using to gas up the Sentinel thing.
They call it prima materia. That's some bullshit alchemy term. We need something more scientific. Peck particles. Has a nice ring, don't you think?
They can't afford fucking anything, so maybe they don't want to work, or maybe they just figure what's the fuck. Maybe I'll just stay in my fucking mom's basement and shop Uber Eats every time I want to fucking go to the weed store.
It's very easy to claim that the younger generations don't want to work hard. They feel like they're entitled to have an easy way. And they feel like life should just be handed to them because they've seen their parents get it a lot better than people get it. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think they're just, as we've seen in many of my videos, you guys have paid attention to the long list of perspectives we've seen from the various spectrum generations, the young or old. And I feel people are just sick of it. They're starting to call it out. And the more people that feel this way, the more people in this bubble, in this spot, the louder these shouts will get. And, it feels like you're just shouting into the void until you get so many, people agree with you, so many other people who are in the same boat, so many, different democratic society, if any of this stuff that's going on in modern day suits you, or if you wish you were maybe born in a different time. Because I know a lot of people feel this way, and sometimes I catch myself racing off my mind thinking about what it would be like to be born back in the day. And I realize I wouldn't have my phone right here, so I don't know if I'd like that. Who knows?
What do you think it's like to be a young person in the UK right now?
Horrendous. The sooner AI takes over and the human race just disappears, the better. And I can't see
Sam, we have arrived. Let us put the Sentinel artifact to good use.
I tracked your approach, and I am pleased you came along together. Though you may find Clothing Hall remains somewhat infected. Hurry! We have so much to do, and it is lonely down here.
Patience, Sam. The team is busy schmoozing with the locals.
And I'll do it again. Many bloody times.
I had every confidence you would recover the Sentinel artifact. Therefore, I am also certain you will be able to charge it up.
Governor, I knew it would not be as simple as merely delivering the cursed thing.
Don't hold out on me now.
Double points.
Chuck and sticky.
The people that are in charge of all these, systems and powers that are,
I'm joined now by Governor Gavin Newsom. We are in downtown LA at the Democracy Center. Thanks for joining me. Oh, this is interesting. Little Tokyo. This is
Still haven't wrapped my noggin around what we're using to gas up the Sentinel thingy.
They call it prima materia. That's some bullshit alchemy term. We need something.
that Trump decided to deploy his troops here, not an accident, to come here while you were having your testimony.
Yeah, and he sent his regional border patrol director here as well as the spokesperson. He made our point. I don't think we had to say a word. He made the point we're making. Not only is he rigging the election, he's trying to ruin and wreck democracy. He's no longer even feigning that he has dictatorial tendencies or authoritarian tendencies.
More scientific. Peck particles. Has a nice ring, don't you think?
Ah, you want to be friends today? Is that it?
Bonus points.
No, you take all the time you need. It's not like I got other shit to do. Every cartel boss and arms dealer I ever met had a villa, plantation, or mansion. Might seem cool to some. To me, a house like this screams trouble.
What, the walking corpses weren't enough of a red flag?
Tear them to pieces.
I'd be caught dead in redneck territory as the barbecue.
Ugh, stop right there. With all the dead meat around here, you'll put me off pulled pork forever.
Max armor.
If I had time, I'd have done worse.
Insta-kill.
Some states Texas are not about party, they're about power. And you've got to lead fire with fire, and power needs to be asserted in blue states, not just red states. Our state of mind has to be more firm, more resolved, and more aggressive.
Let's use that to jump into what you spoke about today. Can you give a brief overview of what's going on?
Well, we're moving forward with a special election on November 4th, coinciding with other local municipal elections to neutralize any and Republicans are doing in Texas. They do 5 seats, we do 5 seats. And we're not only doing that, we're also announcing, as a consequence of this effort, a commitment to national independent redistricting. That's on the ballot as well. We believe it's the right thing to do. In fact, the Democratic Party believes it's the right thing to do. Democrats have voted for national independent redistricting, but Republicans have not. So spare me the crocodile tears on Fox and everyone else saying, oh, everybody does this. Oh, these guys have been gerrymandering for years and years and years. Not like these folks have. And we're at least willing to call that out. In California, we have more because for 15 years we've had an independent redistricting commission. And we have some of the most competitive races, maybe more than Democrats. That's on the basis of competition, but some of the most competitive districts in America.
Voting districts as close as the ones we have in California, where Valadeo is winning, where Ken Calvert is winning, where Derek Paisa is winning, and show me a equivalent in a place like Texas. You have New York and you have California, the biggest weapons for Democrats who have independent redistricting commissions, and yet look at what the Republicans have in their big weapons. Texas and Florida, you have you have gerrymandered states that are being gerrymandered even further to consolidate power for these Republicans, which raises the question: if Greg Abbott and these Texas Republicans want to ramp up the stakes even further, are we going to have time to offer some commensurate response to that?
No, and to your credit, you've been talking a lot more about that, particularly in relationship to the Voting Rights Act, particularly in relationship to the Supreme Court, and the likelihood, it seems, appears that they may throw that out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is about race. This is not just about justice. This is not just about the core tenets of our founding fathers. This fundamentally now can get to another level if the Voting Rights Act is thrown out and these guys with total impunity can whitewash, literally, not figuratively, some of these districts all across the country. So look, that's a break the glass. I mean, we've already break the glass. That's another level.
Yeah.
And there's the ability for states to move. They can call special sessions of their legislature, governors of blue states. You can call special elections. You can look at your constitutional constraints and look at the prospect of getting voters to consider constitutional amendments. There are many different tacks we could take. Right now, This we know we can do. We have the ability to do it for November 4th. We're getting it through the legislature with 2/3 majorities in both houses. We're going to do it in a transparent way. We're going to do it in a temporary way, and we're going to do it in a democratic way. We're going to put the maps on the ballot. People can see them for themselves. They're not going to be drafted behind closed doors, and they're not going to be drafted to Donald Trump's liking.
So this whole situation has kind of surged onto the scene in just the last few weeks, really. And to your great credit, you have responded as quickly as you possibly could, wasting no time in getting this thing on the ballot so that we can have our maps redrawn to counteract, to fight fire with fire against what they're doing in Texas. We still have other Democratic governors across the country who we've heard them say the right things, but we haven't seen action. And so in light of the fact that you're moving right now, we're getting this thing on the ballot in just a few months, and so this thing is moving as quickly as possible. What's your message to these other governors across the country who represent states that could also serve as weapons to counteract what the Republicans are doing, who haven't made any moves yet, any concrete moves yet to do something?
Well, gratitude to Kathy Hochul, gratitude to J.B. Pritzker for recognizing the urgency of the moment, for hosting the Texas delegation. Deep gratitude to the Texas delegation for raising the awareness and the stakes that put a lot of wind in our sail, that gave us the ability to make the case to our legislature. But now it's time to act. Now it's time to take it to the next step. And it's not just those two that have already demonstrated a commitment on this. It's many other states. There are a lot of other blue states out there. Let's go. This is it. There's no dress rehearsal. This guy is going after any institution that cultivates independent thought. He's rewriting history in real time at the Smithsonian. He's literally going after institutions of higher learning like the UC system, and notably here UCLA, which is doing life-saving research that literally is protecting our national security. It's the reason we're the economic tenfold in the American economy and the world economy. The United States of America is a beneficiary. This guy is wrecking it all in real time. We need to wake up. We cannot survive if he rigs not just Texas, but he goes to Indiana, goes to Missouri, goes to Ohio, he goes to Florida. We have to have other governors of like mind, and there are many, to now do something, not just say something.
Right, I think that the main point here is if you stand for any democratic ideal, all of it relies on having a function or a state legislator in another state, and you claim to want to combat climate change or expand health care or protect women's reproductive rights or make unions stronger or whatever it is, protect kids in schools from guns, whatever it may be, all of that relies on being able to survive in a functional democracy,
Yes.
to have the opportunity to be elected in the first place. And so if the House is rigged, if they're able to scientifically engineer maps so that Democrats are precluded from ever having the opportunity to win, none of it matters.
Yes.
And so we can defend, we can claim that we want to stand for something. We can, beat our chests about, standing up for our values. But if we can't do it, if there's no practical way, if there's no method to actually be in power, then none of that matters. And so this is the whole ballgame right here.
God bless you. We're about to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our founding fathers. Co-equal branches of government, popular sovereignty, rule of law. You're spot on. Everything you just said is spot on. This is it. And there's literally no more evidence than you need than the evidence that has been submitted in the first 6.5, 7 months of the Trump administration. And you think this is going to get better? You think if we just say, well, Mr. Trump, it's fine, we know it's a race to the bottom. But, you may call upon those other states. Can you just do 5 and California will stand down?
Yeah.
God damn it, enough. Democrats, stop being weak. Step up. These guys have been dominating the narrative. They have been defining the terms of the debate. It's time to get on our off our heels, onto our front toes. It's time to do just that. Dominate the narrative, flood the zone, and surround sound. It's time for us to all band together. It is about the United States of America. He doesn't believe in that. He believes in the red states. He's going after. It's a war. He's a wartime president. He's the head of a war party. War on women. War on voting rights. War on Hispanics. War on this state. War on institutions. War on history. This is serious. This guy's trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. That's what he's going to try to say tomorrow in Alaska, that he's the big guy trying to find peace, really? When he's bringing war to the American people? He put military in the streets, not of Baghdad. He didn't send the military in his first administration anywhere in the world. He sent the United States Marines into the United States of America in one of the bluest cities in this country, in Los Angeles, one of the great cities. American cities. That's what Donald Trump did. He is a wartime president.
On this idea of weakness, groups that purport to be good government groups who are pushing back already against this, and I guess while we would say we have to push back on this idea of unilaterally disarming, you have some of these good government groups, including a group like the League of Women Voters, who are pushing back here and saying that we shouldn't do this because even though the Republicans are doing it, we have to unilaterally disarm. And so they're aligning themselves with this MAGA movement, with Donald Trump, with Greg Abbott. And so what's your reaction in light of the fact that we should be fighting fire with fire to protect democracy so that we don't just capitulate completely to the right, that instead they're just focusing solely on I guess, what's immediately in front of them, which is that pushing back at all is going to be some type of bad government move?
Well, there's no good government when government is totally eliminated. It's no longer the rule of law, back to this notion of rule of dawn. I mean, the League of Women Voters thinks that by aligning with Donald Trump, that's all they're doing. It's a binary. It's not complicated. Right. By aligning with Donald Trump, the League of Women Voters thinks that's good government when he doesn't believe in independent redistricting. He's going to eliminate independent redistricting. He doesn't believe in advised and consent. He doesn't believe in the power of co-equal branches of government and oversight. When he's trying to rig the election, when he's trying to change the rules by playing against with a brand new set of rules in the mid-decade on the redistricting, give me a break. With all due respect to them, they are dead wrong on this issue.
I have to ask, because this has gotten quite a bit of attention online, but I have a tweet here.
Which one's this?
This is, what I would love is to have you read this in your voice. If you'd like to just take a shot at it.
Well, I mean, wow. Tomorrow history will be made. Now, I'm not going to be as effectively as the person that you may recognize is on True Social, but in this case, we push this down on Twitter. Caroline Levitt will have no answers.
Well, hold on. I don't want you to breeze right through the brilliant. Go on. It's not just Caroline Levitt.
Caroline
Levitt.
No answers for the supposed fake media about California's beautiful, big, beautiful maps. People are saying that were the greatest maps. They're just saying this. They are, right? People are saying the greatest maps
many people have heard that.
Ever created. Even better than Christopher Columbus. Now, the failure Trump, be warned that tomorrow may be the worst day of your life, all because you missed the deadline. He misses a lot of deadlines. Liberation Day for America, GCN. I should have said thank you for your attention to this matter.
So what gave you the idea to, on this idea of fighting fire with fire, to literally adopt his rhetorical genius?
Gloves off, man. Just gloves off. It's all on the line. It's it. Like enough. You know, you're wearing a tie. I took my tie off. Take the tie off. Like it's it. Don't dream of regretting. I said that, it's not no do-over. This is it. Wake up to what's going on in this country. And I'll iterate, I'll try anything. That's what that represents. I'm just trying to break through, man. I'm just trying to be accountable. To be able to look at my kids that, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, know that I did everything I could. And you know what? See what fate brings. But we're going to put everything on the damn line. And that's, why I'm proud of the folks from Texas. And that's why I'm proud of folks showing up at the No Kings rally. People haven't given up yet. I'm telling you, we can win. We're going to do this. We can win this November. We can win next November. And then we can get this country back on track. And I tell you, I took it for granted. I did. Even during Trump 1.0, I took so much for granted. And people ask all the time, well, do you think, authoritarians here? Well, not yet for me. But sure as hell for the people walking on the streets that look different from me. And now I even wonder if you got these big corporate titans that are selling their soul.
Yeah.
Maybe it's come for them as well. Nationalizing, taking 15% of their profits.
There was an announcement today about Intel, about the United States government possibly taking a stake in Intel. And it's ironic that it's happening at the hands of people who vilify Democrats as communists, where you have the government now taking states and private.
You're worried about Mandami? Really? Seriously? And you're sitting there condoning this kind of behavior? Crony capitalism?
Yeah.
Writing big checks, maybe buying crypto? I mean, the greatest grift in American history, billions and billions of dollars? This is sick. This is sick. This is sick. This cannot continue. And if institutions like Harvard are going to sell their soul, then we need to do more. And we have to call this out. This is, I don't want to overstate it, but I can't understate how important November 4th is. And that's why I call it Liberation Day here in California. This is it, man. If we roll over, we fail. Fourth largest economy in the world, size 21 state populations combined. If we can't, in the most un-Trump state, push back, I don't know what's going to happen in 3 years. This guy will run again.
To that point, this is going to be a heavy lift, and we'll finish off with this. This is going to be a heavy lift as we head toward November 4th, and certainly there's going to be opposition. The RNC is going to oppose this, and they're going to put all of their eggs in this basket to fight this in California, because it's going to be easier for them to fight it in one state like California, and an easy scapegoat for them than it is going to be to fight this thing nationwide. And so what can folks who are watching and listening right now do to help? Because I know this is going to be an expensive lift.
This initiative is about giving you power. The power to stop Donald Trump. The power to push back against rigged elections. The power to have a national election that's fair. It's the power to push back. And that power is about showing up. It's about making a contribution. If you can do $3, $5, $10, the cost, there are a lot of folks, I'm just level set with you, and I hate to even acknowledge this, that are scared to write a big check because they know that Donald Trump may threaten them.
That it's
We're
virtually
counting on you.
guaranteed. Yeah.
We're counting on you. We the people. We exist for the consent of the people. This is it. This is it. So we need people, to the extent you can, to contribute, let folks know what's at stake. This is not about California's 5 seats. This is about representation across this country. And things that you see on your TV that are happening here in LA, again, I cannot impress upon you more, are previews of things to come in your backyard unless we stand up and push back.
Well, look, this is the entire ball game right here, and these next few months are going to be absolutely pivotal. So for everybody watching and listening, if you can contribute, help get the word out, that's going to be crucial here. So I'm going to put the link right here on the screen. I'm going to put it in the post description of this video. If you're listening on the podcast, it'll be in the show notes. If you have anything to contribute, it'll help get the word out to as many people as possible, because to the governor's point, this is the whole ballgame here. And these next couple of months are going to be crucial in terms of what happens, not just in California over the next year, but also in terms of this country in the next few years. So with that said, Gov, thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we have some concerning news in the aftermath of an edict that was put out by Donald Trump. I'm going to put his post right up here on the screen. I have instructed our Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate census based on modern-day facts and figures, and importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 24. People who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. And then, of course, the usual, thank you for your attention to this matter, which makes it official as a presidential edict. Mark, first and foremost, and I know that we always engage in this same question, which is the Constitution is clear about who can be counted in the census. It's clear about how often the census has to occur. And then you have Donald Trump saying that he's going to do something that is completely antithetical to what is laid out in the U.S. Constitution. And so when you have these two things, where the Constitution says one thing, Trump says another, how do you reconcile the two?
Well, you don't, right? I mean, what Donald Trump is doing here is either trying to violate the Constitution, or he's ignorant of the Constitution, doesn't care, or it was just like he saw something on Fox News that irritated him, so he decided to fire off social media posts. Like any one of those three is possible. But Brian, let's just level set on a couple of things. The first is that, as you point out, the U.S. Constitution is clear in Article 1. Now, I realize Donald Trump doesn't spend a lot of time perusing the actual Constitution, but if he did, what he'd find is that it requires the enumeration of all people, right? So it's not, he doesn't get to pick and choose who gets counted.
I believe the exact verbiage is whole persons, if I'm not mistaken.
That's exactly right. That's the phrase that is used in the Constitution that has been interpreted to mean everyone, right? So it doesn't matter immigration status. It doesn't matter, nothing matters, right? It's just you count everyone. Right. The second thing is, as you point out, the Constitution makes clear that this is a decennial process. This takes place every 10 years. We have that taking place in the the year starting with 0 or ending with 0, depending on, I guess, whether you view that as the first or the last day of the decade. Please don't leave comments on that. But it was last done in 2020. It'll next be done in 2030. The third thing that I think is worth noting, though, in this rambling, bizarre social media post, is he mentions that it needs to be done somehow related to the results of the 2024 election, which is neither an enumeration and accounting of all persons, nor would it have anything to do with census to be taken. So what is not clear to me, and I genuinely mean this, is he suggesting that for 2030, this is what he wants to see done at the time, the next assembly census? Is it something that he thinks needs to be done mid-cycle, which is the way I think you interpret, frankly, I think that is what he intends. That it's like something done like in 2025 or 2026 in violation of the Constitution. And if that's the case, Brian, I'll throw this back to you. What exactly does the 2024 election have to do with it?
Well, that part, I have no idea. That was going to be my next question to you, because I don't understand what new facts and figures were gained from the presidential election. But what I think we're seeing a pattern of here, and let me know if you agree with this, is we're seeing every method he has at his disposal to try and ensure that he has the House in 2024. And so he's going into these states in 2026. And so he's going into these states like Texas. We've heard from Missouri. J.D. Vance is going into Indiana. We now heard from Ron DeSantis that he's looking to redraw those maps in Florida. And so that's one avenue that they can get to ensure that they keep the House by just rigging the maps even further, gerrymandering them even further. And now,
before you leave that, can I just point something out that I think people need to think about? What a pathetic figure J.D. Vance is. I mean, he's the Vice President of the United States. He has been tasked with going to Indiana to convince them to marry him.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what the Vice President of the United States is doing?
Yeah.
I mean, last I heard, he was going to be convening.
Gold mining sector has a market capitalization, according to this right up to the minute calculation of the values of the gold mining sector, $690 billion. That is the entirety of the sector, the whole of the gold mining sector. But if you compare it with the US stocks, now you see that most US stocks at the top of the pile are many times larger than the entirety of the gold mining sector. So, for example, down here, 14th position, we have Oracle. Oracle is $713 billion in size, bigger than the $690 billion of gold miners.
Monaco 64, home of alternative economics.
35% tariff is now in place on some Canadian goods. And one Canadian industry that Washington has taken particular issue with is dairy.
In early August 2025, President Donald Trump took another step in his aggressive trade strategy. He raised tariffs on Canadian non-USMCA goods from 25% to 35%, escalating tensions at the border. Although the dairy sector itself is not directly hit by these new tariffs, Canada's dairy supply management system has long been a thorn in Trump's side. For years, he has portrayed it as an unfair barrier that protects Canadian farmers while limiting U.S. access to the market. Now, with broader tariffs in place and trade talks under strain, the question is whether Trump can force change in a policy Canada has vowed to defend at all costs.
Supply management is designed to protect dairy farmers. There are limits to how much Canadian dairy products it covers states can import to Canada.
Canada's supply management controls how much dairy is produced domestically and how much foreign product can enter the market. Imports from the U.S. are capped at roughly 3.5% of Canada's dairy market. If that limit is exceeded, tariffs skyrocket, 241% on milk and nearly 298.5% on butter, according to the Canadian Border Services Agency. The system has been in place for over 6 decades, designed to keep prices stable and protect thousands of family-run farms from being outcompeted by massive U.S. operations that can house tens of thousands of cows.
The dairy industry falls under CUSMA regulations, but U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly complained, saying it's an unfair deal for his country's producers.
From Washington's perspective, this is the very definition of a trade barrier. American producers already send about $800 million worth of dairy products to Canada annually, while Canada exports roughly $300 million in dairy south of the border. To Trump and his allies, the limits, and the high tariffs beyond them, mean lost opportunities for U.S. farmers. Just weeks before these latest tariff increases, Canada's Parliament passed legislation that forbids using supply management as a bargaining tool.
Oh, this one! This video! Finally, Wall Street Journal made a video about buy now, pay later. And their conclusion is, it's a lot like credit cards.
This burrito bowl dinner on DoorDash comes to $41, but thanks to Klarna...
God damn, bro. A nice $41 burrito. Sheesh! And you got to Klarna your burrito, too.
Thanks to Klarna...
Literally you, bro? Not me anymore. Don't say literally me. Literally me in the past. I haven't ordered Chipotle on Uber Eats. As God is my witness in 3 months. That doesn't sound like a lot. Actually, when I say it out loud, it sounds so minor. But I have broken. I have broken a streak, dude.
You can make 4 payments of $10.40 over the course of 6 weeks instead. The buy now, pay later industry, or BNPL, has exploded as an alternative to credit cards.
We really believe the credit card industry is going the way of the VHS tape.
But will BNPL...
This is so f***ing stupid. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's debt with interest. It's so insane to act like you invented something new. Like those guys are Blockbuster and we're Netflix. We have entirely new technology. It's the same thing. You're buying something you can't afford and paying for it later. You haven't innovated anything. You're not Steve Jobs, bro, because you changed the name of debt. You just called it buy now, pay later, which was the definition of the word debt.
Take that burrito bowl. Once the customer chooses the BNPL option at checkout, the provider approves the loan based on its underwriting model.
We pay the retailer the next day, and then we take all of the non-payment risk.
Then, the customer is put on...
Which is why they're in terrible business, by the way, because they approve basically everybody. Unless you have a history of defrauding that particular BNPL, they approve you, and they just assume they're going to get the money out of you.
If a payment is late, some providers charge a fee. Providers also charge the merchants to make the loans available to their customers.
The lion's share of our income, 90+% of our income, is made from the merchant, not the consumer.
Some lenders, like Affirm, have also begun to offer longer-term loans that carry interest.
About 20% of our business today is 0%. About 80% has interest on them.
Afterpay also has...
I just want to be clear. These 0% interest loans are only if you make the payments over the 4 weeks. If you miss anything, the fee is if you have a higher than credit card level of interest. The interest is astronomical if you miss a payment.
Donald Trump's White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, made a devastating mistake on Fox News, that if people understood, she glitched out mid-lie. If people understood the historical significance of this, I think it would be getting a lot more attention. So here was Caroline Leavitt this morning on Fox, talking about Ukraine, Russia, conflict, war, Putin, Zelensky, all in the context of Donald Trump's scheduled meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin tomorrow, and listened very carefully to what she said here, because this is really about exactly the words she used.
Highly complex and brutal war that, again, inherited by Joe Biden. Russia did not invade...
Uh-oh. Let me play that back.
And inherited by Joe Biden. Russia did not invade Ukraine under President Trump. They invaded under Joe Biden because of his incompetence and his weakness. And this president is trying to solve it and bring it to an end. And he deserves great credit for that.
So, of course, she glitched. And the implication here is she wanted to say Trump inherited the Ukraine-Russia war from Biden.
Instead, she had a sort of Freudian slip there where she says Biden is the one who inherited this war. And if that's the case, it would have been from Trump previously. And you might be saying, wait a second, if Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022, Biden was president. It is actually Trump inheriting it from Biden. I think that that's all fine. All these conversations are fine. There's really two important dates here, and I think this is where the conversation is more suited. It's more suited to getting to the core of Trump's claims of being the anti-war president and the best possible arbiter of global conflict. 2014 and 2022. 2014 was really the start of this invasion. Russia annexed Crimea, started moving into the Donetsk and the Luhansk, and then triggered this ongoing war in the Donbass region. And that started in 2014, and some of the things I'm mentioning, it took time to develop. And in a broader sense, that's like the real start of the conflict. It happened under Obama, and it was inherited by Donald Trump. So if we want sort of our first shot, our first analysis in saying, does Trump seem to have what it takes to end these conflicts? Not only did Trump not end it during his first term, he allowed it to grow and fester. Now, this is where it starts to get more overtly political. Yes, Putin invaded Ukraine in other areas, in other regions in 2022. And so we might call that the next phase of this war or invasion. That happened under Biden. And then Trump came in. Now, there's a number of different criticisms that can be made here or analyses. One, which I think is an interesting one, is that when Trump says Putin never would have done that had I been president, even if he were right, and Trump is just spitballing all the time, he'll try to see what he can get away with. But if it were true that had Biden not won in 2020 and Trump won, Putin maybe wouldn't have invaded. That could be true, but for different reasons than Trump thinks. When Trump says Putin never would have invaded if I had won instead of Biden in 2020, what Trump means is because Putin's afraid of me. Putin never would have had the audacity to do it if I were president. He isn't scared of Biden, but he's scared of me, and that's why. But there's another interpretation, which is all sort of up for discussion, but it's equally, at least hypothetically valid, which is Putin might not have invaded Putin might not have invaded Ukraine in 2022 if Trump were president, because he sees Trump as a manipulatable guy from whom he can get other things without needing to invade Ukraine. So that is a possibility. But the broader issue here, of course, is Trump allowed Putin's aggression with Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk to go essentially unabated and uncontested during the entirety of Donald Trump's first term. So Trump wants us to believe he's this tough guy who ends these conflicts, and people, as soon as Trump is president, go, of course, no, sir, whatever you want. But we have historical precedent that is not the case. We then get, of course, to this term, and it's important also to hold Trump accountable for the promises that he made. Donald Trump long promised during the campaign for 2024 that the Russia-Ukraine war would end within 24 hours of Trump becoming president-elect. That deadline came and went, and it didn't happen. Then we were told within a month of becoming president-elect, Trump is going to end the Russia-Ukraine war, which would have put that roughly at December 5th. That didn't happen. They moved the goalposts again. It then became what Trump meant about 24 hours was he would end the Russia-Ukraine war within 24 hours of being sworn in late January. That didn't happen. Then it was going to be a month. Then it was going to be 100 days from getting sworn in. All of those milestones, those timelines came and went. And then they shifted to, and J.D. Vance alluded to this, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said it, this may not be solvable. We may be getting ready to walk away. How much effort are we really going to put into this to begin with? So, once again, Caroline Levitt, whose Freudian slip opens the door to this entire broader discussion, is trying to clean up for a guy who has made 10, 12, 15 different promises and claims with regard to what he can convince Putin to do, all of which failed to take place. Biden inherited this war. Of Freudian slip for sure, but really a much broader issue. Now, a couple other moments from this morning's appearance on Fox News. Caroline Leavitt, again, talking about the D.C. militarization, and interestingly, this is so funny. They both want us to believe crime is so bad in D.C. that Trump needs to federalize D.C. police and bring armed vehicles and the whole thing. But also crime's down in D.C., and that's thanks to Donald Trump. Both are supposed to be true under Caroline Leavitt.
Caroline, I know that the president can do this for 30 days if he notifies the right committees in Congress, which he did. There were some stories that Democrats were spreading the narrative. We don't need the National Guard in there because crime has gone down around 30%, 26% I think this past year, and 35% the year before that. And then we heard those numbers might be inaccurate. They might be false. And some people were let go or they were suspended, right, Brian, from their jobs because of it. Can you clear that up for us? Are those numbers correct?
These numbers are absolutely correct, and we will continue to provide the American public and the press with the numbers because we're proud of these efforts. If the Democrats had their way, there would be hundreds more criminals roaming free in the streets of the District of Columbia right now. There would be hundreds of more illegal aliens who this task force has already detained and arrested, and now they're focused on deporting from our country. Those individuals would remain in the District of Columbia, or they would have been free to do more harm. And that's not...
I think you get the point. Caroline, is it true that crime is down significantly in Washington, D.C.? Absolutely, and that is a great success of President Donald Trump. Caroline, is it true that crime is up in Washington, D.C., and therefore Donald Trump needs to federalize the police and start busting down encampments and arresting or sending away homeless people? Absolutely, D.C. is completely out of control. Now, I am not naive to the way that the average MAGA might try to bridge this gap, and I want to deal with that head on. They could say, David, being kind of silly here, it can be true that crime in D.C. is down, but it started so high that it still justifies Donald Trump taking the actions that he is taking. And of course, the data completely contradicts that, because you simply cannot, if you acknowledge the degree to which crime is down in D.C., it becomes impossible to justify taking this action at all. The reason Trump's taking it is because D.C. isn't a state, and it has no governor. It's much easier as a test case for doing this. In other states, you would either need the consent of the governor, or you would need to trample the governor. And that, at least for now, is a little bit more complicated, although they did it on a small scale in LA. That wasn't actually federalizing law enforcement, though, it's important to be clear. That was just sending in federal troops, and it's a different thing. So Caroline Leavitt, speaking out of both sides of her mouth, and the Fox and Friends hosts let her do it. Finally, here is Caroline Leavitt bragging about Donald Trump's incredible achievements in these short 6, almost 7 months of his second term with regard to ending global conflict. Listen to this.
Some of the people in liberal media and liberal circles, people that the president fired, said that the president is going to be embarrassed by Putin. Speak to that. What does the president walk out of a meeting? We know who he is. I'm sure he's not going to tolerate disrespect from Putin, even though he wants peace, right?
Well, Lawrence, you're being very kind, and I won't be so kind, and I'll just name some of those people, such as John Bolton, who I think has made a disgrace of himself on television and in the newspapers, claiming that he knows better than President Trump. No, he doesn't, and neither do any of these so-called foreign policy experts who have never solved a foreign policy conflict in their lives. Look at what this president has done in 6 months. He has stopped 7 global conflicts all around the world, using the leverage of the United States of America to negotiate these conflicts to an end. You had the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia at the White House last week, both of whom said this would not have been possible without the leadership of President Trump and his administration. So the American people trust this president. That's why they overwhelmingly reelected him. And I think it's pathetic, some of the chatter that we see from these so-called experts who have zero accomplishments on their own resumes to point to. President Trump knows what he's doing.
He has ended so many global conflicts. It's just completely and totally unbelievable. know, the only issue with this is he said he'd be the anti-war president. And of course, we all know now about the Iran strike. But even beyond that, the Trump administration has done significantly more airstrikes already than Biden did, now speaking globally. Trump is on pace to completely blow out of the water, figuratively, what Joe Biden was doing as far as airstrikes go. There's really no empirical basis on which you can make the claim that Trump is sticking to this, that he's in any way adhering to the idea that he's the anti-war president and the one that reduces conflict. And so this is an ongoing propaganda battle at this point in time. The facts belie all of the claims. Deficit's going to be down. Well, the deficit's up 20%. I'm going to be the anti-war president. We bombed Iran and have escalated airstrikes around the world. Tariffs are going to create growth. They're not doing it. Prices are going to come down. Prices are going up. And so we have moved beyond this being a policy battle or an economic battle or a legislative battle. This is simply now a propaganda battle. And it's a propaganda battle, by the way, that there are some people involved in waging who are really not competent, and I want to talk about a couple of those people next. You know, I'll often talk to my friends about what do we really think is private on our computers and on our phones. And many people believe that their emails are genuinely private. And it turns out that a lot of the email services are looking at your emails and can look at your emails even after you have deleted them, which is why I recommend our sponsor, StartMail, a trusted name in secure email for more than a decade. StartMail is based in the Netherlands. Netherlands is known for very strong data protection laws. Your emails won't be scanned. Your emails won't be tracked. StartMail will block those invasive tracking pixels so you won't be monitored by companies and by hackers. And when you delete an email in StartMail, it is gone for good. Your data stays private. They are all in on this with a ton of features, including aliases to keep you anonymous, strong encryption with your emails. It is super easy to move to StartMail. It's a few clicks. Migrate your emails, migrate your contacts. You really can't go wrong. Try StartMail for yourself, completely free for 7 days at startmail.com/Pacman, which will also give you 50% off your first year. The link is in the description.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we've got major news right now, and that is the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is currently meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorneys in federal prison. And so the question swirling around right now is that if the DOJ is meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell before Congress has the ability to speak with Ghislaine Maxwell, what do they have the ability to do if, for example, Maxwell might have information that compromises the President of the United States?
So, Brian, by sending one of Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorneys, Todd Blanche, now Deputy Attorney General, to the prison to see Ghislaine Maxwell, what they have the opportunity to do is mold her story in a way that doesn't incriminate Donald Trump. Because, let's get down to brass tacks. Trump put people like Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and Emil Bove into the highest positions at the Department of Justice to be loyal to him, to take care of him, to protect him, and to do his bidding as necessary. Remember, Todd Blanche went into court every day in New York when Donald Trump was being criminally prosecuted for committing 34 felony crimes. And Todd Blanche every day looked that jury in the eye and said, Donald Trump committed no crimes. That's not a criticism of Todd Blanche's decision to be a criminal defense attorney and do what defense attorneys are obligated to do, represent the interests of their client, even when their client is guilty as sin, as Donald Trump was. But that was his job. That was his mission. That was his purpose. Now, he's still loyal to Donald Trump. And he is the one, a high government official, not a DOJ lawyer or prosecutor, but a political appointee who used to be Donald Trump's defense attorney.
is going to go and sit down with Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you really think, Brian, is there anybody gullible enough to believe that Todd Blanche is going to be like, listen, we need you to truthfully tell us about any information that might incriminate my boss, Donald Trump? Of course not. So here's the problem. They will get to mold whatever it is Ghislaine Maxwell says in a way that doesn't incriminate Donald Trump. And once they lock her into that account by promising her something in return, let me tell you, this is what we do as prosecutors when we sit down with somebody who's been charged with a crime, indicted for a crime, convicted for a crime, sentenced for a crime, and is looking for a benefit from the prosecutors, from the government. We sit down with them and we say, okay, what truthful information do you have about the crimes of others that we may be able to use to investigate and hold accountable other folks who have committed crimes? And Brian, if and only if somebody in Ghislaine Maxwell's position provides what we can corroborate is truthful information about the crimes of others, will we ever consider giving them a benefit for that information? But as you can imagine, people like Ghislaine Maxwell, who, are serving 20-year prison terms, have every incentive to say anything that they believe the prosecutor or the person, a political appointee like Todd Blanche sitting in front of them, wants to hear. Why? Because they have the power to reduce her sentence or ask a court to reduce her sentence, and they have the power to say, we will ask the president to pardon you if you say the right things. I'm being cynical here, but come on, can you really believe that the folks who are loyal to Donald Trump are going to act in good faith as honest brokers of the facts if those facts incriminate Donald Trump? And Brian, once she's locked into whatever story she and Todd Blanche agreed to in this little sit down they're going to have, then Congress can certainly subpoena her, can have her testify under oath about all things Epstein, including any Donald Trump involvement with Epstein, and she's already going to be locked in. She's going to have to stick to the script that Todd Blanche, put before her if she's going to come out unscathed and get the benefits that Donald Trump's DOJ might promise her. All of this is theoretical right now because the meeting hasn't, happened yet. But let me add this. First of all, rarely do we, prosecutors, Department of Justice, lawyers, do business with somebody who has been convicted, sentenced, and is serving a lengthy prison term. You know why? Because we give these people every incentive to cooperate with prosecutors during the investigation before they're ever indicted. Or after they've been indicted, we sit down with the defendant and their defense attorney. Mind you, we always have an FBI agent or a detective or an investigator in there with us as well, so we can accurately report every single word that is spoken. What we don't want to see happen is have somebody say, well, the prosecutors promised this person something under the table that was never documented. So there are always witnesses accurately recording every word that goes on in these kind of meetings. But the point is, usually we try to bring a cooperating witness on board before they go to trial, before they're sentenced, and before they're serving 20 years in prison. But once they are convicted and serving that sentence, rarely do prosecutors go back to them and say, now we want you to cooperate. I say rarely because sometimes we do it if we believe that that person can provide truthful information about the crimes of a significantly bigger fish. So it does happen, but it happens rarely. But this whole thing is part of the ongoing Donald Trump, Pam Bondi reality show that we can probably call the Epstein files. And the whole thing, these are all maneuvers to try to cover up and protect Donald Trump.
Well, it's worth asking here, if Pam Bondi has a story about Donald Trump, what about when the House has been able to compel the release of the Epstein files? We found out yesterday that there was a vote 8-2 in an oversight committee subcommittee compelling the release of these files to that committee. And so if Pam Bondi decides to say something in accordance with whatever new story she and Todd Blanche put together, what happens if that's directly refuted by something that the files themselves say?
Well, what will happen is, okay, so let's play this out. So the files say something about Donald Trump that Ghislaine Maxwell would have reason to know because she lived it. She is Jeffrey Epstein's convicted co-conspirator in this criminal endeavor to sex traffic young girls, right? So let's assume that she then testifies before Congress inconsistently with what Congress now has in its hands, the Epstein files from the Department of Justice. That could result in Ghislaine Maxwell being criminally indicted for perjury, more accurately, what we call a 1001 false statement to Congress. It's the equivalent of perjury, lying under oath. In theory, but who would bring that charge? Pam Bondi's Department of Justice.
Right,
really?
and by the way, even if she was charged because the DOJ wanted to save face, Trump still has the ability to offer her a pardon, which is the issue at hand with all of this right now, is that she kind of had, if she strikes some deal with Todd Blanche today while they're speaking from her prison cell, then she could be promised a pardon in very much the same way that if she lies and gets caught, she can also be pardoned for that.
Exactly right. Trump holds all the cards when it comes to issuing presidential pardons, even to cover up his own criminal activity. Thank you, 6 Supreme Court justices who are forever apparently trying to protect a criminal president. But a couple of other things regarding Ghislaine Maxwell's potential testimony before Congress. If we go back to the scenario of, well, what if there's something in the Epstein files that is directly contradicted by what Ghislaine Maxwell testifies to before Congress? Brian, is there anybody out there who is completely confident that when the Department of Justice, Donald Trump's Department of Justice, as headed up by Pam Bondi, complies with the subpoena to give all Epstein files to Congress, do you really think they're going to give the portions of the Epstein files to Congress that might incriminate Donald Trump? I think that very unlikely. At best, it's an open proposition. And one final thing, just the fact that a political appointee like Todd Blanche, the number 2 official at the Department of Justice, the Deputy Attorney, sit down with a convicted sex trafficker, I don't know if that has never happened in our nation's history, but it sure wouldn't surprise me, because you know who sits down with people who have been convicted of significant crimes and are serving lengthy sentences? One person and one person only, the lead prosecutor in the case, as assisted and accompanied by FBI agents, detectives, investigators, to make sure everything is accurately captured in that meeting. And there's a reason that the lead prosecutor is the one to sit down with the person who she prosecuted, and by she, I'm talking Maureen Comey here. It's because that is the only person who can look Ghislaine Maxwell in the eye when she's saying X, Y, and Z about what Donald Trump did or didn't do. And that person, the lead prosecutor, is the one who will know, because she's privy to all of the evidence in the Epstein and Maxwell cases, whether Ghislaine Maxwell is telling the truth or whether she is lying. Todd Blanche will have no fucking idea what Ghislaine Maxwell is saying, though I'm sure he'll be satisfied to receive any information that helps clear Donald Trump. This thing stinks from the perspective of a career law enforcement agent, a career prosecutor. This whole thing stinks from start to finish, and it looks like an orchestration to try to again fool the gullible into believing that Donald Trump did nothing wrong.
And would you say that that's why the DOJ felt it was so necessary to sprint over to Ghislaine Maxwell right now? I mean, they're doing this under the guise of transparency, right? But if they really wanted transparency, if that's what truly they sought to offer, they could just release the files. Pam Bondi has the files at her disposal, and so they say that they want transparency, the proof of that would be Pam Bondi actually offering up the files that are in her possession right now. But instead, they say they want transparency and they're going to go to Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you think that there was a reason that the DOJ sprinted over to Maxwell before Congress had the ability to do that? Because once Congress has her on record answering questions about Donald Trump, that would be the story, and it would already be documented from Congress's side. So then Todd Blanche wouldn't be able to manipulate her story in any way or get what he needs from her, which is her silence as it relates to Donald Trump.
Yeah, by all accounts, assessing the information that we have available to us, this sprint to Maxwell, as you aptly put it, is to do two things. One, to head Congress off at the pass so they can craft Ghislaine Maxwell's message so that it, does not implicate Donald Trump, and two, to continue to try to fool the gullible. Because, and I haven't even talked about this, because this is perhaps the worst possible outcome, but Todd Blanche could sit down with Ghislaine Maxwell. He could then emerge from that meeting and say, everybody, not only did Ghislaine Maxwell not implicate Donald Trump, you know what she said? That Epstein's client list consists of 100 high-profile Democrats. That's what Ghislaine Maxwell told us, which, that's when I think there will be this deafening clamor for a release of all of the Epstein files. Because, Brian, let's think about this logically. If the Epstein files cleared Donald Trump and implicated a bunch of Democrats, don't you think Pam Bondi would have released it the minute she took office? How gullible do they think we are?
Right. Well, let's finish off with this. Maxwell's appellate attorney is a guy named David Oscar Marcus. He was on a podcast last year with the Deputy Attorney General and former Trump criminal defense attorney Todd Blanche, and Blanche said to Marcus, "You are by far the best out there. I now consider you a friend." And so, what does having a cozy personal relationship between the Deputy Attorney General and Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, what does that tell us about the ease with which they might be able to enter into some agreement that, if everything was above board, if these guys weren't chummy or personal friends, might not be so easy?
Yeah, it feels like a possible conflict of interest. I would need to know more about the nature of the relationship between the two attorneys. But here's the thing, Brian. Whether there's an actual conflict or just an appearance of conflict that undermines the confidence that the people should have in the way DOJ lawyers are going about their business, that person shouldn't come within a mile of the case. Now, would it surprise me if these two, are thick as thieves, figuratively speaking, and that makes crafting Maxwell's story in a way that doesn't harm Donald Trump all the easier? It could very well be. But what I will also say is that, look, as a career prosecutor, I had defense attorneys that I considered to be friends, even though I would go into court and do battle with them all the time, and then we would be civil and cordial and shake hands at the end of the trial, and that didn't conflict me out of a case in which they were representing the defendant. But, it can be a close call, and when there's a close call, you don't want to be, in an adversarial relationship with somebody that you publicly said is a good friend of yours. So, listen, that is probably the fifth reason why Todd Blanche shouldn't go anywhere near Ghislaine Maxwell. But, ethics are out the window, and I've been saying all along, and I've been watching this in real time, there is not only a brain drain from the Department of Justice with all the DOJ career people, attorneys who have been there for years, fleeing the Department of Justice rather than doing Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, and Todd Blanche's dirty work. There's also an ethics drain, not just a brain drain. The folks who take their ethical obligations to represent the interests of the American people seriously, rather than the interests of a corrupt president, are fleeing the Department of Justice because they can't work under those conditions. So, this is going to be ugly all the way around, and I, for one, will have absolutely no confidence in anything Todd Blanche says about what Ghislaine Maxwell reported at this little sit-down they're going to have.
All right, well, as soon as we have any news from this sit-down, we will, of course, bring it to you. For those who are watching right now, if you'd like to follow along, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on the screen. It's the best way to support our work, the best way to support independent media, and it is completely free. So again, links right here on the screen. I'm Brian Teller Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
Watching The Legal Breakdown.
Well, thank you very much. We're looking at the construction, and we're with the chairman, as you know. Chairman, come on over. And we're just taking a look at what's happening. You know, it's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them. A lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed, one of the reasons I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1. And
I'm not aware of that.
yeah, it just came out.
I haven't heard that from anybody. But
It just came out.
aren't those that about 3.1 as well?
3.1. Yes. I don't know who does that.
Are you including the market renovation? You just added. Yeah, you just added in that third building. So that's the third building.
Well, no, it's the building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished market 5 years ago.
So it's part of the overall.
It's
So,
not new.
so we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening. And it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them. We have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
That was Fed Chairman Jerome Powell being forced to fact-check Donald Trump to his face as Trump lies in real time. Now, the reason that Trump is lying here is because he wants to make Powell look bad, in this case by showing how high over budget the construction of the Federal Reserve's new headquarters in D.C. are, because he needs a pretext to be able to fire Jerome Powell. Why does he want to fire Powell? Because Trump wants Powell to lower the interest rates and jumpstart the economy so that Trump's economic numbers will be stronger. Remember, Q1 GDP numbers showed that the U.S. saw negative growth, meaning a contraction in our GDP. And if we have one more quarter of negative growth, we are officially in a recession. Donald Trump desperately wants to avoid that narrative, so he's leaning an extraordinary amount of pressure on Powell to lower the rates. Powell, however, doesn't care about the political implications of the economy for Donald Trump. His job is to oversee our nation's monetary policy. He knows that inflation right now is still stubbornly high, and in fact, inflation went up from May of this year, when it was 2.4%, to June of this year, when it was 2.7%. Lowering the rates now will likely cause a spike in inflation. Powell obviously wants to mitigate that, so he's been holding off on rate cuts, but Trump doesn't actually care about the intricacies of monetary policy. He just wants any short-term win he can get his hands on, because his focus is helping himself. And so knowing that he needs to start laying the groundwork to fire Powell because Trump isn't being personally served by him, Trump has been railing against Powell relentlessly, both online and in person, even going so far as to say this.
He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him.
Trump was surprised that Biden put him in, which, to Trump's credit, surprised all of us, considering Biden didn't put him in. Any guesses as to who did?
As president, there are few decisions more important than nominating leaders of integrity and good judgment to hold trusted positions in public office. And few of those trusted positions are more important than the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Accordingly, it is my pleasure and my honor to announce my nomination of Jerome Powell to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. Congratulations.
But yeah, I'm sure the book about Trump's cognitive decline is right around the corner. Any day now. It's worth noting, too, for anybody who says, oh, well, Trump's a business genius, just let him do what he wants with the economy. He did do what he wants with the economy. And this is what the stock market looks like right now. The US is the only country in the industrialized world with a shrinking economy. We've got rising inflation. Trump's trade war that was supposed to garner 90 deals in 90 days has resulted in deals with Vietnam and the Philippines. Costs are rising across every sector and promise to rise even more as the tariffs continue to act as a drag on international trade. And on top of that, 17 million Americans are about to lose access to their health care, which will mean they have even less disposable income to inject into the economy. And as Trump deports the very people who are fueling our economy, meaning immigrants, building homes and picking food, that'll lead to less productivity and less tax revenue being collected. Because yes, undocumented immigrants do pay taxes even though they're not able to take advantage of any of the benefits. So in terms of a compelling argument to listen to Trump on the economy, I've yet to see it. Now, just as a side note, this is not to say that we don't have a problem in this country with building infrastructure in a way that's affordable and efficient. Projects that cost millions in other countries cost billions here. Projects that take months in other countries take decades here. That's a whole other conversation about the abundance agenda and eliminating red tape and enabling America to actually be competitive as we build out our infrastructure. And in fact, we should have that conversation, which I broached with Ezra Klein here. We are sitting in California right now, which is bogged down by these perpetual impasses when it comes to building anything, really. Whether you're looking at houses, whether you're looking at the debacle that is high-speed rail, we just can't get anything done because, every single step of the way has to take 10 years.
Yeah, I think this is not just and I would say that the two sides become this weird dispute. The culture of the right is it's follow the leader. It's wherever Donald Trump says goes, wherever he picks his fine, whoever wants a contract gets it. It's very, and we've seen this a lot of other countries. Yeah. And the culture of left is pure. It follows a process. It follows rules. It listens to everything the lawyers say. It is very little daring, and it does not like it when anybody's upset. So, both of these sides,
But those changes that we do need to see, notwithstanding, this situation right here is not Jerome Powell's job. Powell is not the project manager of a construction project. He is the Federal Reserve Chairman overseeing the nation's monetary policy. And if Trump were ever to hold him responsible for excessive building costs on a construction project, that excuse, in terms of firing him, would be as thin as it gets. The reality is that we are all on this plane together. Republicans, Democrats, Independents. We should root for monetary policy that makes sense, not monetary policy that offers political benefits to one single politician. We are not here to serve Donald Trump and his party's electoral prospects. He is here to serve us. If only he spent even one single day acting like it. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. I'm joined now by the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So the Oversight Committee made big news yesterday when they voted 8-2 to compel the release of the Epstein files. Now that that's in play, you're making some news right here with your latest overture to James Comer, who's the chairman of that committee. Can you explain what that letter said?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really important now that we've actually got some level of support from Republicans on this committee to actually subpoena the actual Epstein files. The first thing was important is getting James Comer to agree that he would actually honor the subpoena and sign it, which he's compelled to do. He's already said he'd do that, which is great. That is an important first step. And then next is actually he's got to issue the subpoena expeditiously, quickly, and then demand that the files get actually sent to us also in a timely manner. So we asked in that letter, we sent a series of questions to make sure we get those documents appropriately, but most importantly, we asked them to commit to a 30-day window of the subpoena. So once the subpoena is out, we want to receive the files, the videos, the documents, all within 30 days. So we expect, hopefully, Chairman Comer to accept those terms. It was very basic, but we didn't push him along here. So it's important that he knows that the American public is carefully watching his actions and that we need those files immediately.
So within the motion that passed 8-2 in the subcommittee, were the terms of the release not included in there? Is that why we have to go through this process now, where we have to spell out the terms that you want Comer to abide by?
Right. There's a specific kind of motion for subpoenas that we put together to get those out. That was made, and then as far as the terms for the subpoena, that's almost always up to the chairperson of the committee, and so that, of course, because they're in the majority, is Comer. And so, but the most important piece of this, that he already agreed he's going to issue the subpoena. Now, he just issued the subpoena for Ghislaine Maxwell and her deposition. He did that within days of oversight voting on that subpoena. So we're hopeful he's also going to do this within days as well.
So on the Maxwell front, we know that Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, sprinted over to Maxwell while she's in prison, so that Blanche could have the opportunity to speak with her before Congress did. Do you think that there is some reason to look into here, without sounding conspiratorial, that Todd Blanche, I guess under this guise of transparency, even though if we actually wanted transparency, they would just release the Epstein files, but under the guise of transparency, went immediately to Ghislaine Maxwell to be able to speak with her before Congress had the opportunity to do so?
We should absolutely be concerned. I mean, let's first be very clear. I mean, Maxwell, is a convicted sex predator who is an accomplice to Jeffrey Epstein, who essentially lied on the stand, had committed horrific crimes, had been involved in abusing young women and girls. And so on her own, she's not someone that can be trusted per se. Then you have a sentence that she has, of course, that she's now serving. And of course, the DOJ and Trump, there is absolute concern that she's going to try to cut some kind of deal and essentially say what Donald Trump wants her to say for some kind of reduced sentence or pardon. So that's a concern, which is why it's so important that we get the files, because if she's going to then be deposed by the oversight committee, and I'll be at that deposition, if she's going to actually be deposed by us and the Republicans, both of us in that room, we're going to be able to hopefully corroborate whatever she is saying with actual documents. We just cannot take her word for it when she is now working with Trump's Department of Justice. So I think Donald Trump's trying to get a fast one here past us and thinking we're going to somehow just accept what she says as the truth. Absolutely not. We weren't born yesterday. We're going to get those documents and make sure that what she tells us is aligned with what's actually been documented in these files and all these papers.
What if she doesn't? What if you find inconsistencies between what she tells you and what the Epstein files actually say?
I mean, look, that's why it's important for oversight Democrats to be in the room in that deposition. We're going to make sure that the deposition is done in a way that focuses on justice, that centers the victims, and that is not some sort of Republican sideshow to exonerate Donald Trump, who we know is in the Epstein files. And with, as you know, just recently told by the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi that he was in there, which is why we're probably getting this massive reversal.
Is there some concern, though, that there's no incentive for Ghislaine Maxwell to tell the truth? Because worst case scenario, she's caught in a lie on behalf of Donald Trump, because maybe he offered her some deal to reduce her sentence, or maybe even has some pardon dangling in front of her for the end of his term. But she tells some lie. Ultimately, if perjury charges were referred to the DOJ, it's up to Pam Bondi and by extension Donald Trump to actually enforce that. And even if they did enforce it, Trump still has the pardon power, which he's shown he's perfectly willing to abuse. And so what's the incentive here for Ghislaine Maxwell to be able to tell the truth, knowing that the very people who she may be striking a deal with right now are also the people who would be charged with enforcing any perjury charges against her?
Well, I think what the concern for her should be that she would be lying to the United States Congress. And whatever deal she wants to cut on the side, there's huge danger for her to lie to the U.S. Congress, particularly under a subpoena and an official deposition. And so she's going to have to weigh all of that herself and know that we're going to have documents that's going to actually be able to verify what she's saying and if it's true or not. And so all of that are going to be decisions that she's going to have to make with her lawyers. And I'm hopeful that she realizes that she has done horrific actions, crimes to so many people, and she should, I hope, want to make amends to all of that. And so we expect and hope that she'll give us the truth, but are very much prepared for her to try to cut some sort of deal with Donald Trump and the DOJ.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that she's not going to do it out of the kindness of her heart or out of some idea of benevolence. She's going to do what's best for her. We already know that she is a liar because there's plenty of documentation proving that she's lied in court or said whatever she has to say to help herself. And she knows that the cop on this beat is going to be Pam Bondi from the same DOJ that is right now meeting with her, presumably to cut some type of deal. So I presume that if and possibly when she does lie, that really the battle here is going to be the court of public opinion, as opposed to hoping for this DOJ of all DOJs to be able to enforce some action against her.
I think that's right. I think you said it best. We know this is not a good person. She's a known liar. She's not a good person. She's a horrific person. And so it makes the actual collection of the documents and the videos and the files that much more important. If she's going to try to cut a deal with the DOJ, because she's going to be deposed, we've got to actually be able to verify that. And without that verification, I'd be very concerned about anything she has to tell us.
Okay, so if and when James Comer actually subpoenas these files and they get released to the Oversight Committee, what's going to be the general public's transparency? What's going to be our insight into what the files actually say? Is it only going to be members of the Oversight Committee or even certain members of the Oversight Committee who actually have some visibility into this stuff? Or is there a way that the files more broadly will be released to the public?
So the files will first come to the Oversight Committee, and so our committee will review those. And we've got obviously a great team of folks, not just members, but of lawyers and others and scholars. So that is first. And then as far as what the next step is, we're right now in the early kind of negotiation process with Chairman Comer about what comes next. But the most important thing is that the representatives of the people acquire those files. And of course, we believe those files should be made available to the public. I mean, this can't just end with the files at the committee. Those files have got to be made public to the American people. And that's our intent.
So Senator Mullen over on, obviously, the Senate side, Republican senator from Oklahoma, objected for a second time to Ruben Gallego's effort to compel the release of the files on the Senate side. Is this largely symbolic because the House already passed its motion compelling the release of these files? Or is there some practical reason that the Senate might want to pass a motion to compel the release of those files on their side?
Yeah, I think the Senate should. I mean, there's no reason why both the House and on our end, the Oversight Committee, and then the Senate also get copies of the files, because we know that these files are going to come first and foremost to the Oversight Committee in the House. But I think the more people that can actually get their hands on the videos and the files and the documents, I think the better. We want transparency, we want accountability, and so I think it's a good effort to also have the Senate try to get the files in their process. The more folks that actually are trying to compel the DOJ to do the right thing, I think the better it is for the country and for transparency.
In terms of, let's say they're not successful on the Senate side getting this stuff through. Part of the reason that I asked what the level of insight everybody else would have outside of the House Oversight Committee is because let's say they just can't do it on the Senate side. Is there a way that because the Oversight Committee in the House has gotten these files that they can be shared with your colleagues in the Senate?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, they've got to be evaluated within the committee and within the Oversight Committee members. That's actually where it'll be for a while. As far as the step after is when it's still got to be discussed and further negotiated. And so the important thing is that we get a copy. And there, as you know, the folks on the Democratic side, on our committee side, I mean, you've got folks like Ro Khanna, Jasmine Crockett, Maxwell Frost, people that are incredibly good legislators, and they're committed to the truth. And so I fully expect that once we get a hold of these files, we're going to fight like hell to make sure that they're released to the public.
You mentioned that you're going to be at Maxwell's deposition. Can you walk us through what you expect that process to be like? How many other people you expect to be there? Just give us some insight into what you anticipate that will be.
Yeah, I mean, the terms of the exact format of the deposition is still being negotiated. Oversight team has been already in touch with Ghislaine's lawyers and her team, and so that's being discussed. What will be certain is that James Comer or a representative of James Comer will be there representing the House Republicans, and I will be there on behalf of Oversight Democrats. As far as other members of our committee in attendance, that's also being discussed right now. It'd be great to have other members there as well. And so all of that we will be deciding in the next few days. Right now, August 11th is the likely date in Tallahassee, in Florida, but it's not set. So that you might see that date shift over the next few days. It's all right now on the negotiating table. But what's important is that we get it done and get it done quick.
Okay, well, we will, of course, stay on top of this. I'll have you back on as soon as we have either any movement on this deposition that's going to be in person with Ghislaine Maxwell, and whatever Comer says as well with regard to compelling the release of these Epstein files and actually issuing that subpoena to the DOJ. So, with that said, again, as always, thanks for keeping this in the zeitgeist right now and fighting as hard as you are, Congressman. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rafael Anchia, A-N-C-H-I-A. I'm a state representative from Dallas, and the and the immediate past chair of the Mexican American Legislative Caucus in the Texas Legislature. I'm joined here by my colleagues representing the major caucuses of the state, and of the state legislature rather, both current and immediate past chairs. We wanted to bring leaders from Texas together to share ideas and experiences with Governor Newsom, who was so gracious to host us, along with members of Congress today, to discuss two major points. First thing I want to point out is we shared ideas and experiences on how the big ugly bill impacted both of our states. This is a major point of commonality because while Texas Democrats and California Democrats may be a little bit different, we're all Americans. And we represent constituents that are being hurt by Trump's big, ugly bill. The next thing we wanted to do is share ideas and experiences with the governor about Texas redistricting and brief him on the state of play and what's occurring in Texas. And it should be no surprise to anybody who covers Texas that every decade since 1970, Texas has been found to discriminate against people of color in its redistricting process. We wanted to share with the governor the history of that redistricting and bring him up to speed on Trump's effort to rig elections in the state of Texas and change the outcome on the backs of black and brown Texans who have accounted for 96% of all the growth in the state of Texas. Communities of color, I will repeat it again, have accounted for 96% of all the growth in the state of Texas, yet the Trump redistricting plan seeks to dismantle historic and important districts represented by African Americans and Latinos, where African and American and Latino communities have been able to elect the candidates of their choice historically. In trying to do this, it is going to cause great harm
not only to the people that we represent, to the voters of the state of Texas, but also potentially to all Americans. Voy a ofrecer unos comentarios en español para los medios que están aquí haciendo cobertura y vamos a estar dispuestos los miembros de los líderes de Texas para también darles comentarios individuales. Pero quiero enfatizar que en los dos estados de California y de Texas, el 50% de todos los latinos que viven en Estados Unidos provienen de esos dos estados. Y estamos buscando en Texas aliados como el gobernador Newsom para hablar sobre el plan del presidente Trump y cómo quiere desmantelar distritos históricos en donde hispanos han podido elegir los candidatos que prefieren, y en desmantelar esos distritos quiere hacer que haya menos representación de nuestra comunidad. Ya estamos bajo representados en el Congreso y el presidente Trump quiere ejercer este plan y hacer que nosotros tendremos una menor voz en el Congreso. Sin representación jamás vamos a poder llegar de donde estamos como una comunidad a donde queremos estar. Quiero reiterar las gracias por parte de la delegación de Texas porque hemos encontrado un gran aliado, un gran socio en el gobernador Newsom. Ahora voy a ceder el micrófono y permitirle al gobernador sus palabras. Gracias. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. In many respects, this is an appropriate place to be with all the noise out there. Reminds me of all the noise in our politics, all the distractions, the daily discourse, the weave from one issue to the next issue, Truth Social, post on X, the intentional nature of the shock and awe that is our body politic today. And so often we lose sight of what's essential. So often we lose sight with all those distractions on what matters most. And it's what matters most that brings us here today. It's an honor to have the delegation here from Texas, an honor to have leaders from the Texas delegation represented many of the different caucuses that we here in California are familiar with. Two of the most diverse states in the world, most diverse democracy. Texas and California have so much in common. Of course, our politics is a little different. And the question I imagine many folks are asking here in California, what do the politics of Texas have to do with the politics here in California? The answer is everything. Everything now is made clear and vivid. We have an administration that wants to roll back most of the progress of the last half century. They want to put America in reverse to bring us back to a 1960s, pre-1960s world. We talked about voting rights, LGBTQ rights. We talked about the rights of women in the meeting a moment ago. We talked about everything that's at stake. Everything is at stake if we're not successful next year in taking back the House of Representatives. Of course, we want a fair playing field. We want to play the game on the terms where everybody is playing by the same set of rules. That's no longer the case. We have to disenthrall ourselves that that's the case. Not with Donald Trump, not when he made a call to the governor of Texas and talked about finding
Take a look at this chart. This shows who processes the minerals inside your smartphone, your laptop, every electric vehicle on the road. China processes 65% of global lithium, 73% of cobalt, and 87% of rare earth elements. That means almost every piece of modern technology depends on China's processing facilities. But right now, it's a quiet war between ramped up road initiative in 2024, while the European Union is scrambling to secure alternative suppliers after China imposed export controls on germanium and gallium in 2023 and 2024, which are critical for semiconductor production. At the centre of this competition, Canada, not because Canada is the largest producer of these materials, but because it is the most politically stable source outside of Chinese control. Canada's critical mineral production was valued at approximately $8 billion in 2022, with Canadian-owned mining companies operating significant operations both domestically and internationally. Here's what most people don't understand. Whoever controls the supply of lithium, cobalt, nickel, and rare earth elements doesn't just control the green energy transition, they control the future of every advanced economy on Earth. And right now, China and Europe escalating bidding war for Canadian resources that could reshape global power forever. Let's start with the facts about what Canada actually has. Despite government rhetoric about being a critical minerals superpower, the numbers tell a more complex story. For lithium, Canada has approximately 3.4% of global reserves as of 2023. The country has about 5.3% of global cobalt reserves, with 600,000 tons compared to the Democratic Republic of Congo's 6 million tons, representing 15.8% of global reserves. For copper, Canada's global share of reserves is 1.1% compared to Chile's 22.7%, with production 2.8%. So why is everyone fighting over Canadian resources if they don't have the money? The answer is geography, politics, and processing capability. Canada has nickel production facilities in Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and Labrador, making the country one of the leading global producers and suppliers, with nearly 3 million tons of nickel reserves. More importantly, Canada offers something that resource-rich countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo or Myanmar cannot: political stability, environmental standards, and reliable supply chains. Critical minerals are the foundation on which modern technology is built. They're used in everything, from mobile phones to solar panels, to electric vehicle batteries to medical applications. When your entire economic future depends on these materials, you don't just want the cheapest supplier, you want the most reliable one. China understood this reality decades before anyone else. While Western countries focused on manufacturing and services, China quietly built dominance over critical mineral supply chains with a combination of domestic production, overseas investment.
This was the scene 2 months ago today, June 14th.
If you could stop the ether reactors from going critical, that would be lovely. I will find where that semi-conscious bucket of bolts is hiding the artifacts.
Looks like our hands are tied. Not in a fun way. Adrenaline's pumping and so's the lead.
I was afraid, Maya. I could not trust anyone, so I lied. Nexus is beyond even the Sentinel artifact's reach.
I know how that feels, Sam, but this hurts people I'm trying to give a shit about. That's a problem.
Richtofen was closing in on the artifact. I had to act. Please, help me.
This is Security Chief John Blanchard. Be advised, a rogue Janus scientist, goes by panels, is at large on site, should be considered dangerous. We are a little busy at present.
Okay, my gut's a funny feeling.
Double pull.
Are you prepared for the potential attendance, the size, the energy, and the that name they are made?
Hey, Peck, when we first met, never dreamed we'd end up here. Would everyone most like to see you dead?
Well, I never dreamed you'd end up there, Rookie of the Year. But I'll settle for the fact that we're not pushing up daisies.
you get off your ass and give it a go?
The one thing we both have in common is we're seen as criminals, loose cannons. People hate it when you live by your own rules.
Yeah, but these folks took a chance on trusting us. Maybe we can do the same with Sam. I promise you, Box, I can be a much bigger prick than you, so don't fuck with me. Wonder what kind of cheddar I could score moving those. Enough of your spooky bullshit. Nothing scarier than my right hook. Any chance you can spit out a fresh meat pie? Oh, Box. You know exactly what this girl wants.
That's right. I'll tell you where I did not buy a house. Where? Washington. No.
Benefits package won't cover that.
Trust Sam. That's your game plan? Well, the only thing I trust is science. And my God-given genius, of course.
Fuck science. Half the walking corpses in this place have PhDs, and look where that got them.
Peace.
We took a look at articles referencing Trump's takeover.
Choices are helping a mass murderer or a machine that lied so he could get life. Doesn't seem like a tough call.
Know your role, comrade. The easy choices are the ones that worry me most.
Sentry turrets live.
So I think if you will side with Sam, it comes down to a choice.
Take it however you want, big guy. When the moment comes, I'll trust my gut.
they would be wanting to work alongside these vigilantes, or at the very least to pick their brains for what they could do better to alleviate these issues. We've been monitoring vigilante activity on Roblox for some time. These groups began by reporting safety concerns, commenting on news about Roblox, challenging us to do better. We appreciate this feedback and use these reports to improve our safety systems. More recently, vigilante activity evolved. Instead of just reporting on safety issues, vigilantes started impersonating children and actively sought to connect with adult users. Those conversations mimicked inappropriate behavior and actively encouraged other users to connect with platforms, thus bypassing Roblox's own safety systems. So basically what I'm hearing here is that they're protecting the $6. I mean, they're pretty much saying that the only way they can help out is to use these available channels, which are obviously known to be broken, to report these matters. And some of you may remember from my last video that the woman is actually suing Roblox as of a few weeks ago after her daughter was abducted by a man she met on their platform, saying that all they care about is their bottom line and not the tens of millions of kids who use their games every day, even claiming that a former Roblox employee stated, "You have to make a decision, right? That's what I said, because then it'll be less of them on your platform. Or you can just let them use their money for you." And listen, guys, of course the parents do have some blame in these situations, but at the end of the day, this platform is advertised to children constantly. It's not even like a Fortnite situation where it's more of a game than it is a community. Like, to me, this is much more of a community than it is a game. And honestly, when you spend a lot of power on Roblox, which I think I've never played it in my entire life, and it really left me questioning, like, as a grown man, that's all I can go ahead and just say, hey, yeah, I'm definitely not going to Roblox.
I hope you rested up on your journey to West Virginia. You look well, all things considered.
First time in America. And it looks just as shagged out as expected. That's one for the folks that live in Falls.
I await you beneath the main residence. Try not to get killed before we meet.
Underground. Everywhere we fucking go, we end up underground. I don't know how, but it feels like this stupid box is smirking at me.
I promise.
I'm just gonna pretend it's a side effect from the wonky sliders.
But using it may prove as difficult as it was to obtain.
Seriously? I swear, Maxis better kiss all our asses when we bring her back from the dark ether.
I think some just went in my mouth. You know, boss, you walk a really fine... Still haven't wrapped my noggin around what we're using to gas up the Sentinel thing.
They call it prima materia. That's some bullshit alchemy term. We need something more scientific.
You want to talk? Thank you so much. It was Mr. B. Inviting you over
It's a
his house
nice
to
ring,
be able
don't
to
you
play
think?
all of my Bitcoin. The rabbit hole goes much deeper. Talking to you right now, you're the only you for what you did. Hello. This is another video. Inside the
Insta-Kid.
right now. This will be, it is the best way of one of the best. I've made many videos about this because Preston didn't do anything wrong. So on the 10th of August, the lad actually posted a video called Trust Nobody, and in this video he talks about some
work on a project together. When I first started out on YouTube, I had another YouTuber reach out to me to collab, and I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. He said yes, because, again, if you're the smaller YouTuber in this scenario, you would probably say yes in most cases, because, again, there's no money.
Every cartel boss and arms dealer I ever met had a villa, plantation, or mansion. Might seem cool to some. To me, house like this screams trouble.
What, the walking corpses weren't enough of a red flag?
Tell them to peace.
If I had time, I'd have done worse.
Until today, the only reason I'd be caught dead in redneck territory is the barbecue.
Ugh, stop right there. With all the dead meat around here, you'll put me off pulled pork forever.
Because at the time, he wasn't really that big of a creator. I mean, to be fair, he was only really 2 months into his career, so there wasn't really much money around then.
So they asked me how much I wanted to gamble, and I recommended that we gamble maybe $200 because, well, I'm not trying to lose a lot of money. And keep in mind, this was literally 2 months into YouTube, and before this, I had never made money in my life. This person literally laughed at me,
and apparently Malad was laughed at for setting the limit at $200. And then this specific creator that he still hasn't named yet said to him, "How much do you have in your Coinbase account?" Obviously, for those who don't know, Coinbase is basically like one of the biggest crypto trading platforms in the world. And at the time, Malad said he basically had around half a Bitcoin, which was around $21,000.
Asked me how much I had in my Coinbase account because they knew I'm a Bitcoin guy. I had 0.57 Bitcoin in there, which at the time was around $21,000.
And the worst thing is, if Malad actually kept that Bitcoin in his account, it would now be worth over $100,000. So this YouTuber again that Malad keeps saying but not actually naming, asked him to send him the Bitcoin and he'd use it in gambling, and even if he lost, he'd pay him back.
They told me to send all of it and that they would pay me back. Now, normally I would never in a million years ever agree to this, but I really trusted this person and he was a massive creator, so I agreed and sent the money.
Now, obviously, this is one of the biggest red flags imaginable. Bro, just give me some crypto. I promise I'll pay you back. I mean, you can even say that with real world money. Bro, this guy you just met, just give him some money. He'll pay you back. But I guess it was a mix of, like, you know, seeing a bigger creator and hoping to, you know, get another collab or something like that. So he basically abided, gave him the Bitcoin. And much like anyone in the casino, the loss happened. And it happened very quick. In about 5 minutes, the $21,000 evaporated.
I'm not even kidding. Within 5 minutes, they gambled away all of my money. But I was completely okay with it because I was like, I'm going to get this money back.
But obviously, he was promised that he would be paid back by the creator, you know, if the money was lost. So Milad claims after the collab wrapped up, after it was finished, everyone went home, and then he asked for the Bitcoin back, and there wasn't any kind of response. He reached out again, apparently, and no response.
So I go back home and I reach out for my Bitcoin. The first time, no response. The second time, no response. I reached out about 5 more times before I realized, oh, I just got completely bamboozled.
He basically asked to have the money lent back to him with the understanding that he'd get like around 5 times, and again, no response. So Milad is now down $21,000. Again, he got basically the collab of the century, but still being down over 20k, not really the best.
best luck. Now, if you check the comments of this video, it wasn't actually pulled, unlike the other one that I'll talk about soon. And people really want to know who this creator is because he wasn't named in the video. But there's one guy here saying, dude, it's your moral responsibility to say something. This guy has access to